Thank you. Welcome to the October 27th meeting of the Finance, Taxation, and Assessment Committee to discuss the proposed budget. This evening, our topics for discussion include the Department of Fire and Emergency Services budget presentation, the Albany Police Department budget presentation, and the associated ordinances for bonds related to such departments. Committee members present are Councilmember Keegan, Councilmember Farrell, Councilmember Adams, and myself. Other council members present are Councilmember Conti, Councilmember Zamer, Councilmember Hoey, and Councilmember Anane. We are also joined by our city staff, Brian Jimenez and Carly Johnson, and also we have our city clerk, Shaniqua Jackson, here as well. With that, we are going to first start with any public comment. Do we have any public comment for this evening? All right, no public comment for this evening. So then we're going to first start with our Fire and Emergency Services presentation. Chief, if you can join us here up at the front, and anyone else presenting with you.
Okay, there we go.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Joe Gregory. I'm the Chief of Department for the City of Albany Fire Department. Joining us here tonight is we have our command staff, Deputy Chief Dave Newton, Deputy Chief Brian Wolfgang, our Chief Fiscal Person, Chief Fiscal Officer is Eric Reamer, and everyone knows Gideon here, and Kate from our budget office. So, you guys are all set?
All set.
I will begin. So our mission statement for the fire department is something that we've been presenting every year. We always like to begin showing the mission statement of your Albany Fire Department. Basically, we just want to ensure the fact that to let everyone know that we are an all-hazards department, as we term ourselves now. We're not just a fire department. We do provide emergency medical services for the city of Albany, both basic and advanced life support, technical rescue, hazardous materials responses. We have a marine unit that operates on the Hudson River, and also we still put out fires. So. Additionally, we have our Division of Training and Safety and our Fire Prevention and Investigation units. We're constantly striving to directly reach out and educate our residents and our community. In addition to the tactical duties of our department, our Division of Training and Safety, along with our Fire Investigation and Fire Prevention unit, act as direct liaisons to connect us with the communities that we do serve. You can see here some of the groups and events that we participate in year-round. So in addition to being a busy urban fire department, we do a lot of community engagement with our city residents. This slide here is a follow-up to our previous slide. It just shows a number of interactions that we've had with our community members, both children and adults. One note there, in February was kind of a regroup month for us. It was a short month, so we do a regroup and a reevaluation of our measures as we move along for the remainder of the year. So we do see a considerable amount of people. These photos just illustrate some of our community engagements, and we'd like to point out too, as a matter of fact, the picture on the right is a picture of firefighter Mike Delaney. He's an instrumental part of our fire prevention unit, and he does a lot of community engagement, and he's recently the recipient of the Kiwanis Award for his community work. We nominated Mike, and he was selected as a recipient of our community engagement team, for our community engagement project. So we're very proud of that. This is our basic response data that we present. This is 8 years worth of data we collect. It talks about our total structure fires, various types of fires that we respond to, whether they be vehicle fires, outside rubbish fires, brush fires, dumpster fires. It shows our special responses, as well as our emergency medical responses. And you can see that that's a major portion of our response. The EMS is about 60% of our responses for throughout the year. Some of the highlights, too, that we like to point out. We just recently, last Friday, we graduated a class of several probationary firefighters. The point that we talk about on the second bullet point, the graduated 3 paramedic firefighters, that's through the Hudson Valley Community College paramedic program. So that enhanced our paramedic services within the city, just gives us extra depth for our service that we provide as far as the advanced life support mode goes. We also increased our departmental training. That was a major point that we covered last year. That was something that we talked about. We looked at our training, and we wanted to enhance our special operations training. So we were able to provide some specialty courses. As you can see, rope rescue technician, the hazardous materials modules, ice rescue, and firefighter rescue training, which is very important to us, as our firefighters' safety is a major concern of ours. Some of the other highlights, pictured up on top is our new Ladder 3. That was delivered earlier this year. That's stationed up at the Breveter Street Firehouse. We're awaiting delivery of 2 new pumpers. It's, as I'm sure you've seen in the news reports, it takes 3 to 4 years to build apparatus. And we have been waiting for 3 years for these pumpers. So these have been previously bonded, and they're finally being delivered. They're here at the delivery point in Palinville, as they're outfitted now for us. And they should be arriving and put into service sometime during the month of November. Excuse me. Next bullet point that we have is that we're very proud of the fact we applied for and were awarded a FEMA grant, a FEMA Assistance to Firefighter Grant Award. Being the fact that not many federal grants are being awarded now, we were selected, our city was selected for our grant application, and that's to purchase 16 CPR assist devices. These are going to be crucial in what we hope is to bring an upturn to our survivability rates as we move forward. So we're working in conjunction with our medical director to pick out these devices now. And the last bullet point is something that, this is a no-cost bragging point, but we like to brag about the fact that we're 4-peat CDTA Pink Bus Bowl champions. So your firefighters make a big impact, and it's a great event. What it does, it's out for, it's a cancer type of event. It's for breast cancer, and we participate. We were the best of 21 teams, so we're pretty proud of that. So now we get to the numbers. So we have 268 authorized positions. It's 260 uniform members and 8 civilian members. The 8 civilian members includes 3 of our mechanics. As we look through the budget and the numbers here, and if there are any questions, I can help answer them or direct them to Eric or Gideon. But in our research, we looked at in the average fire department budget throughout the country. It shows their breakdowns of personal services to operating budget. And the average is 85% to 15% for the personal services to operating budget. Ours works out to 93%, 93.1% actually is personal services, and our operating budget is only 6.9% of our total budget. So So, some of the 2026 highlights. Maintaining staffing levels. We're very proud to be close or at full strength. Right now, again, as I mentioned, we have 254 uniform members, or 256 uniform members, I'm sorry. So we have 4 vacancies right now, and that was because of there were retirements after we hired our last class, so we couldn't get them into the last class. So we do have an existing list. We have a new list that recently came out from a February exam. So we're able to process as needed as we get to build up for a full recruit class. We do have an apparatus replacement plan, an upgrade schedule. We monitor that constantly, and we follow that, and we feel that this is planning is everything when it comes to fiscal responsibility. The third point, when we talk about our community risk reduction, our fire prevention unit has ramped up as we mentioned earlier, has ramped up their availability to go out and talk about fire prevention measures and access into the system. It also works as a recruitment tool for us, so we're very proud of that. And last but not least, here on this slide, we talk about enhanced firefighter health and wellness. We are very proactive. We work in conjunction with our union, and we're very proactive in cancer screening. We just recently did esophageal pre-cancer screening for our members and offer that up. We were the first department in the area to offer this, and many other departments and career departments and volunteer departments have contacted us about this type of testing, and we've referred them. So, but we were the first ones to take this on. We do have an aggressive training plan. We're moving forward with our plan for 2026 for our specialty units and and all of our companies, so that we're able to provide the best service that's out there for our community. We talk about evaluating and implementing new fire service technologies. We're working with the police department right now on the new CAD system, the computer-aided dispatch system. There's a new fire reporting system that goes into place on January 1st that we have to be a part of, called NERIS. And we're continually looking to upgrade our EMS reporting system in order to provide the best data for us. And last but not least, here we talk about upgrading our aging firehouses. We have several turn-of-the-last-century firehouses, and we're working to upgrade them with efficiency programs. We're working with other city departments on that project. We're looking at heating systems, cooling systems, lighting systems in our firehouses to upgrade them, to enhance them, and become more efficient, energy efficient. Our capital budget we don't have a big capital budget. We talk about our protective equipment, which we're mandated to replace every 10 years. So we have a plan for that. Our fire apparatus, we spoke about already. That's on our 15-year replacement plan. You'll see that in a second. And as we just spoke about, our fire station infrastructure improvements. So it's $2.1 million total for our capital improvement plan. This is our in-depth 15-year apparatus replacement plan. We track everything. We track mileage, we track engine hours, we equate engine hours into miles. We look to get the best, trying to think of the best way to put it. We look at the best way to organize our apparatus and possibly move it around so that we can get the most mileage out of it. Once our apparatus comes out of service from frontline apparatus, which we usually we're trying to look at about 10, 11 years for the frontline apparatus, and then we'll move it into a reserve status, so that gives us an extra 5+ years out of it. So we're hoping to get that type of a service life out of our vehicles. This is kind of a simplified plan, just basically talks about what apparatus we are replacing and at what point in time and what year. So that's our budget in a nutshell. I mean, it wouldn't be a fire department presentation if we didn't let you know that we are Albany's bravest, you know, and we are your Albany Fire Department. So that's it from me. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief Gregory, for your budget presentation for this year. Appreciate the walkthrough of items, and as always, appreciate you and all of your department for all the important work and the safety that you bring to our city on a daily basis.
Thank you.
We're going to open up to first questions from committee members. See if we have any over here. Okay. We'll go to Councilmember Keegan.
I feel like I'm always first.
Try to switch it up.
My first question comes from page 56 of the budget book, and it should be very simple. It looks like you are just simply changing a job title from analyst to data analyst. Do we know what the impetus for that was?
Yes, we currently have a person in the analyst position. We have a very limited civilian staff, so we pile an array of projects on our civilian staff. So we thought that this was a better way to reward him by getting him into a data analyst position. Because again, we also are looking at our numbers, and we're constantly preparing data for budget, for the mayor's office, for any type of federal funding that we're looking for, state funding. We work in conjunction with the NFPA and other local fire departments in the area. So this is going to enhance our ability. And again, we're just placing a higher workload on that position.
So just to simplify for people who are listening from afar, that's a change from a 5 to the equivalent of our grade 5 to a grade 7, which
Correct.
provides for a higher salary range.
Correct.
In order to retain that individual, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that our total salaries are going up by just under $1 million due to wage changes, Gideon? Are those mostly negotiated salary increases?
That's really the Professional Firefighter Association contract.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And then I just want to note, in other equipment, this is on page 58 of the budget book, line 7250, that line item is going up by about 200,000. Do we know what that's in relation to?
Yeah, that's to provide the $300,000 FEMA grant that the chief mentioned.
And are those going to be devices that are in our EMS vehicles?
That's correct. Actually, there's going to be one device on every piece of apparatus. So we're getting 18 devices, and they're going to be on every piece of frontline apparatus.
So there's essentially a revenue coming in to account for that line item? Okay.
Correct.
And then I note you guys reduced your budget for supplies and materials by 100,000. Is that based on last year's actuals?
A little bit, yes, and also you'll note that down on EMS expense or EMS supplies, you'll see a corresponding increase. The department wanted to just more accurately reflect which materials were for, medical supplies versus other supplies.
Okay, well, that takes care of one of my questions on this page. And then the cost for apparatus parts and repairs went down. Is that, again, just based on last year's actuals?
Yeah, that's just based on where we're running this year, yeah.
And we already talked about the FEMA aid. We're pretty secure that we've received that, or are those funds are they already here?
No, I mean, that's a reimbursement basis. Obviously, I assume the government will open before next year.
Hopefully. Those are all my questions on your budget line items. Thank you so much. And thank you again for making the time to meet with us this evening.
Thank you.
Councilmember Farrell.
I was going to see if Megan asked all my questions, and she did not this time. But she did ask most of them. I just wanted to, in the equipment line 7230 vehicles, that was cut out entirely. And I do know that when it comes to fire department vehicles, you are in a different situation than the police department in terms of you use your vehicles last much longer in general than police cars do. And for many reasons that are all entirely legitimate and we are not talking about now, but it makes a lot more sense to be bonding for fire department vehicles. But there have been conversations over the years about shifting the vehicles that are not that heavy equipment to the regular budget, and I just wanted to kind of, since that's something, this is foreshadowing for the police department, sorry, Chief, but I just wanted to mention it here if that was something that was changing or what was the reason for cutting that vehicles line.
No, I mean, I think you'll notice last year's actual and then purchasing more. I mean, these aren't for the apparatus. These are sort of the there you go, ancillary response vehicles like Ford Escape type sized vehicles. The department has purchased a significant amount of those over the past 2, 3, 4 years, and I just think we can skip a year type of thing.
Excellent. We absolutely love that. We love to make sure that you have good vehicles, and I'm always happy to talk to my constituents about the incredible plan that you've had that I've admired for years. But I love that you have what you need and you're not going to be spending the money. So we appreciate that. And next year, we look forward to reinstating this, should it be needed. And then I was just curious, the underneath employee benefits, 7803 compensation, can you just talk about that? That was one of those things I was just curious exactly what that compensation was for.
That's 207A, which is disability payments for specifically for firefighters.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. I just want to also note for the record, we are also joined by Committee Member Ballerin and our Research Counsel, Robert Wenner. Additional questions from committee members? Councilmember Adams.
Good evening. Thank you, Chief, for coming in. Just two brief questions. One regarding the community outreach portion that the department has been working on. Just wanted to get a better understanding if there were any new ideas that your department has been coming up with or has in mind in terms of fire education and educating the public on important fire issues, especially with some of the fires we've had recently.
Sure. We are very proactive with our community education. On our city website, there's an application that we refer people to fill out that gives us the information of what they're requesting and at what point in time. And anytime we go out and do a presentation, whether it's a formal presentation or it's just a community event, for example, like the Touch a Truck events that we participate in, there's always questions that come out. We do follow the NFPA recommendations. We talk about the big push this year was lithium-ion batteries, which has been an issue that we have faced several times. We talk about it's that time of year now for smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. But there's also it's just that basic overall education point that people want to know. They take it for granted that something that things will happen correctly, and you look at in the event of an emergency. The little things like close the door behind you as you exit the structure. Those are the things that we have been pushing. You know, that could save a life, that could buy you time, that could buy some time for us to get set up and get our operation into play. Smoking is a big issue that we cover. So we kind of run the gamut on fire prevention issues, if that's what the question was.
I guess to be more clear, just in terms of platforms and avenues where you're getting this information out of, whether it's through social media, whether it's through having information downstairs, where is the information of the activities, workshops, community educational opportunities, where is that being pushed to?
We've gotten a big push through the schools.
Okay.
We're also getting some community engagement from local groups. For example, we down in the Center Square area on Hamilton Street, one of the property owners contacted us that has multiple residences down there, and they asked for us to come and do a presentation for them. So we're able to get out and work with a larger group of people that are you know, we can get to a larger audience at that time. So it's just something that we can get out in. We're open to community events. It's more of a hands-on and a face-to-face meeting. We've really kind of shied away a bit from the handouts and leaving paraphernalia around, because it you know, quite honestly, people grab them and we find them, you know, 20 feet away laying on the floor. So we try and do more of we feel it's more impactful to do a face-to-face engagement.
Thank you for your response. Just as a personal suggestion, I would say when it comes to like the educational piece, you know, social media has been a good way to integrate into the public. The water department kind of makes videos, informational videos on different topics now that I think does a good job with reaching into the public. I think if there's, you know, any other creative ways that you can get your information out, that will be very helpful to the public. Because again, there's YouTube, just doing different videos where if a resident has concerns about, you know, fire safety, you know, whether they can go to the city's website or not, if there's another way to have that information provided to them where it's accessible, whether it's just educational videos that they can watch at their leisure, but something out that continues to educate the public on, again, a lot of our older homes, or just some of the techniques or things to look out for that residents should be aware of.
Okay. We appreciate that. We'll take that into under advisement.
Not a problem. I did have a second question. Oh, yes. And can you speak to just a little bit further detail as to the infrastructure improvements that the department is planning to make, in terms of what does that look like exactly?
Well, one of the major improvements that we're looking at in some of the older firehouses are replacing the room air conditioners like you have up here with mini splits. You know, that's a huge turnaround. We're tracking our purchasing for these air conditioners. And in the firehouses, I mean, our firehouses are, we live in them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These units are constantly running. So, you know, that's a major cost change. You know, we're looking at different lighting as we update our firehouses, our kitchens, our apparatus floors, our bunk rooms, looking at the lighting situations to try and get more energy efficient lighting in there, but obviously to keep our firefighters safe and you know, both inside and outside of our buildings. So really, it's heating, cooling, and the stability of the structures. We had some structures that needed some wall repair because water got behind it. I mean, our buildings are aged.
I understand HVAC work can be very expensive, so
Yeah.
thank you for your response.
Thank
I'll
you.
yield my time.
Councilmember Valerian.
Thank you, Chair. and thank you, Chief. Thank Gideon for being here with us today. I have just one quick question, two quick questions and a comment. One, I'm looking at page 56, and I'm looking at F6, F5, F4, F3, and F2 on the salary grades, and I'm seeing no change from 2025 to 2026.
Yeah, that's just a typographical error on that table. If you go to the back of the book where the pay scales are, those are correct. We'll certainly correct that for the adopted book, no problem.
Okay, so we are under a good, clean contract then?
Yes, the firefighters' contract goes through the end of next year.
Okay, so good. That's good to hear. Thank you. So that was my first question. My second question had to do with issues that I know of historic regarding diversity. How are we doing with diversity? I know that was an issue that we've been working on for many years. Do we know how the numbers look with our new class that was just recently moved forward?
We don't have any new updates on that. The fact that the firefighter's exam is an open competitive exam, it is open to residents of the city of Albany, the county of Albany actually, and the contiguous counties. So we make a big push within the city, again, through our fire prevention programs, and we offer online. We had set up a program. We found over the course of time that the biggest hurdle is that initial hurdle of the written exam. So we set up a program, and we had conducted classes on how to take a civil service exam, and we felt that was very helpful. We tried to be very proactive. It's a matter of people that are interested in the fire service. That's the biggest thing. We know that we can recruit through people who have some prior experience with emergency medical services from some of the commercial ambulance services and the volunteer ambulance services around the area, as well as we attract a lot of people from the volunteer fire departments. But again, it goes through an open competitive written exam.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm going to encourage everyone to continue to work on improving that. I shared a couple of years ago how it was a firefighter who convinced my mother to go to the hospital 4 or 5 years ago. When
Right, I remember that.
None of her kids could do it, but it was a firefighter who spoke to her in Spanish,
Right.
that was able to get her to go. And I honestly believe that gave us a couple of extra years with her. So having those different individuals in these rooms, I think helps.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. So my last was more of a comment regarding the prevention efforts. I want to make sure we continue to encourage you to ask for any resources that we can help provide with technology and tools. I'll tell you, my son really enjoyed trying to shut off the digital fire that you have for the kids. And he enjoyed playing in the fire truck. But what I really got was when we went home, and he asked me, "Where's our meeting place?"
Good.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Well, if there's a fire, where do we meet?" And it made me have to realize we never had that conversation. So I appreciate the efforts that are being done at all the different levels, because sometimes it takes the little kids to make the grown-ups think about this, and not everything else that we have to think about, but really have that perspective. So if there's any new technology that you think is out there that we should be looking at, definitely make us aware.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple additional questions for you. And one compliment, obviously, you and your department do a great job with staffing, given that you're at 256 out of 260 active firefighters staff. So that being said, is there any unique quality to your recruitment process or anything you would like to share in terms of how you keep that almost fully staffed?
We have the greatest job in the world. I don't know what else to say. You know, but you hear us say it all the time. You talk to any firefighter, they'll tell you that. So, I think it's just the performance of our members. Our members do a fantastic job out there, and I think that you know, we jokingly say, you know, people don't call us to have, you know, tea and crumpets in the morning. When they need us, when they call us, it's for their worst emergency, and our members go out there and do a phenomenal job and correct everything. So I think they mitigate the situation rapidly, and I think it's just a great selling point for our job.
Thank you. And the apparatus, looking to bond 1.5 million. Just going back to your presentation, it looks like we're doing in 2026, if I'm
The rescue
interpreting this right.
squad.
The rescue squad.
Correct.
Right? Can you just go over what that?
Sure, that's our heavy rescue. That's the piece of apparatus that works. It's assigned out of the Arbor Hill Firehouse. That's our specialty unit. So that's a unit that carries 4 to 6 members that are assigned to it per shift. It carries extrication equipment. It carries shoring equipment. It carries hazardous materials equipment. So it's a huge toolbox plus on wheels.
Thank you. Okay. Additional questions from council members? We'll go Councilmember Hoey and then Councilmember Conti. I'll do the ordinances after.
Thank you. Chief, always love to come every year for your budget hearings and just to hear what's going on. You, your command staff, and the men and women do a great job for the city.
Thank you.
We had a terrible 4th of July, as you know. Thank God we have legislation now to prevent flare guns to be, hopefully we won't ever see that again. You talked about the firehouses, and I'm just curious, how many firehouses do we have in the city?
We have 8 firehouses located strategically around the city.
Okay. Now, over in, I'm over by the Gilderland border in Westmere. I just saw they tore down their old firehouse and they're rebuilding. At some point, do you think we might have to approach something like that in the future?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's something that needs to be looked at.
Okay. And you mentioned, because my cousin's a firefighter from New York City, and he's retired now, but, I mean, you said it. The people live in these firehouses. This is home. So I feel that whatever we can to make it feel like home and be a home is important. I know we had one of the firehouses, we did have a mold issue. So I am happy to hear about the air conditioning, the heating system. My other question is, if you upgrade the heating system, I don't know if you use gas or if it's electric. I know there's a new mandate coming down that everything has to be electric. I don't know if we're going to have to fall under that or not. I don't know if you know, but if you don't, we don't have to worry about it right now. Talking about the education, and Alfredo kind of beat me to the punch. Does the fire department make school visits? Is that something that's on your?
Yes, sir. They do it all the time. We interact with schools throughout the city. Again, it's kind of it's by appointment. We don't necessarily have to even reach out to them. They have approached us, and the word is around. So, we schedule them. Our fire prevention unit is out multiple times a day, at multiple locations, and you can see by the numbers of the number of people that we encounter, it just shows that they're doing a great effort out there.
And it's a good recruitment tool.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's where we get them. We get them young and explain. Because I remember when I was in school, sanitation, fire, and police came to the school and visit and explain what they did. And like Councilman Ballerin said, I'd go home and say, hey, we need to do this to be safe. And I think that's the best thing when kids speak.
That's kind of our 15-year personnel replacement plan. We have a 15-year apparatus replacement plan, so we could,
Yeah. And then my last thing is, and, you know, I am concerned about, and it's something, again, it's not for today, but moving down the road. As you know, I moved to the city in '89. The population was a lot less. And I know we just missed the 100,000 mark this last census. I can almost guarantee you that we will be well over 100,000. We see all the new developments going up. We see new buildings, people moving into the city. How does your department figure out what the right number is of, you know, equipment and personnel?
well, again, you know, using using this new position of data analyst, it's something that we work out. You know, we now, through our CAD system and through our data collection, we can look at areas and pinpoint areas of where our responses are and kind of map that out to see how we can allocate resources when needed, if we need to reapportion resources.
Okay, thank you so much, and
You're
appreciate the work.
Thank you. Councilmember Conti?
Thank you. Chief, I'm looking at your presentation, the response data page, and I'm looking at the false alarm responses section, which it looks like it's been going up from what it was in the earlier part, that there's been a kind of an increase. I'm not sure what it's going to end up in for this year. What are the nature of the false alarm responses that you respond to?
You mean the causes of what?
Yeah. I mean, there's some of these automatic, you know, alarms that go off, or are they malicious calls that you get, or is it?
No, to be honest, it's a combination of all of that. The calls that we receive from dormitories, it could be something as minor as steam that sets off a smoke head or a smoke detector that we have to respond to. We have to follow the rules, and we've been in contact with Albany. Actually, we meet with them tomorrow again to talk about some of the issues in the common areas, and if they can make any adjustments with their heat detectors and smoke detectors in those areas. We do find that there are quite a number of pulled hooks that people, you know, will, you know, it's just something that maybe is entertaining to them. I don't know, but it's really a variety of things. I mean, it's something as little as smoking, recreational smoking in an area that you know, will trip a detector. Just it's based on positioning. So.
A few years back, there was some discussion within the council about enacting a false alarm ordinance, similar to what other municipalities have. Never really moved forward on it, but there was a lot of discussion on it, and it looked like it was moving forward. Is that something that would be helpful? Would that help in terms of false alarms, or you know, every time you have to respond to one, that's a cost.
Right, absolutely. You know, and it also directs resources to an area. You know, it occupies resources in the event of an emergency somewhere else in that response area. So, sure. I mean, it's something that we'd be open to. I think it would be it'd be beneficial to. It may be a deterrent. It would also be beneficial to from a fiscal standpoint.
Right.
So,
I mean, in some respects, if I recall how they work, I mean, it would potentially provide revenue,
correct.
As well as, you know, hopefully reducing the amount. Are there models out there that you're familiar with that maybe work? Or?
I can't speak to any specific models, but it has been discussed amongst fire departments for various types of programs that are out there. Again, I don't know the legalities of it, the specific legalities of it here in New York State, so we'd have to look into that, but that's something we can work with.
Okay, thank you.
Corp
I
Council.
believe there are numbers of New York municipalities that do have them, but we
Correct.
can do that. I appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks.
And then, yeah, that was my main question. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Nane?
Thank you, Fire Chief, and thank your members for all the work that they do. I look at the Fire Department revenue for Safer Grants, Albany Fire Department. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What is that specifically?
Talk about that.
And page 58, the
Yeah.
Safer Grant, and like what is it?
That's the grant from FEMA to maintain fire department staffing.
Oh, staff, okay, staff. Gotcha. And then also, just back to what so many of my colleagues particularly talk about, it's just more so the community outreach and communication. You know, and one of my colleagues asked a question particularly about social media, especially 2026. Social media, a lot of millennials, people my age, that's their source of information. So when I looked up the fire department's page, it seemed like there's no one that's kind of like handling communication on social media. Do you guys defer it to the union to kind of do all the communication, or is there a way that maybe we can advocate for a communication person within the fire department? Because I'm not seeing that on the social media platform.
But we'll certainly take any help that we can get, and as far as the social media aspect goes, again, with the very limited staff that we have, it's kind of difficult for us to dedicate someone to that particular task. And no, we don't rely on the union. We want to make sure that the message gets out correctly, so that would come from us.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess it's something that we're going to have to talk about, but just the budget director, is there something that you'd be open to if we're able to find some funds to kind of allocate to maybe communication? Because again, the fire department does such a phenomenal job, and whether it's an elected official, if there's some great things that happen in the city, I think it's good that the residents know about it, and also that could go towards also the public education aspect too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anytime that, fire prevention education and safety information can get out there is a positive thing.
My question, and this particularly for the fire department, do you see is there hope that ultimately in this budget cycle that we could allocate some funds towards that communication aspect?
That's obviously a legislative decision. I would say that, it depends on the scale of what you're discussing. I mean, if you're looking to contract with a provider for a small amount of online post presence, that could be probably accommodated. But if you're looking to hire a full-time communication staff, that probably can't be accommodated.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Additional questions before we go into the ordinances? Councilmember Farrell.
Chief, I apologize. I'm about to ask a non-budget question, but I figured it's been something I've been meaning to try to find out about, and it has to do with fire safety, so I figured I would ask. In my ward, there was a house fire like a year and a half ago where they believe it was a plugged-in battery, of some sort that likely created it. And just in my other job, batteries and how flammable they are have come up a great deal. So I was just curious, I think a lot of people, I know I do, just leave my drill battery plugged in and my lawnmower battery plugged in. Is that something that you would recommend us not doing?
Probably. Well, we'd have to, our formal answer would be follow the manufacturer's recommendations, but we would probably not recommend you leave that unattended. Once it's fully charged, you can remove unplug it for safety reasons. And there are various types of batteries, so it would depend on what type of battery. Probably you're referring to something like the lithium-ion batteries, and that would probably be a good move to unplug it once it's fully charged.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, we are going to move into, for our final piece here, the two ordinances that we have. We'll start first with Ordinance 31-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $1.5 million and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $1.5 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. fire and emergency services fire apparatus. We had previous discussion that this would be in relation to the rescue squad located at Arbor Hill, carries approximately 4 to 6 members, you said, and a number of tools as well. Anything additional to share on this ordinance?
No, I don't believe we do.
Questions from anyone? Just to confirm, it's just the one vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, any questions? Not seeing any. With that, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I make a motion to move ordinance 31-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan, a second from Councilmember Adams. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 31-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. And then our last ordinance is ordinance 32-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $400,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $400,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, fire and emergency services, fire station infrastructure improvements. Useful life approximately 15 years, and you had mentioned that this will be looking to improve AC units, lighting, and some other items, I believe. Any additional information to share on this ordinance?
I think that sums it up pretty much.
Okay. Questions, comments on this ordinance? Okay. If no questions, is there a motion? Councilmember Farrell.
I move to move ordinance 32-101-25 out of the committee with a positive recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a positive recommendation, motion from Councilmember Farrell, a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 32-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Great. With that, we have concluded our piece for fire. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, all of you, and being present. And again, everything you do for our city.
Thank you very
at
much.
this-
If we may indulge
Absolutely.
just for 1 minute to kind of sidetrack on behalf of our department, we'd like to take a minute to acknowledge the common council members who are completing their tenures at the end of this year. On behalf of your 260 members of the Albany Fire Department, we'd like to thank you for your service to the city of Albany, and especially for your support of our fire department and the work we do each and every day to protect the city. So I hope we have made you proud as Albany's bravest. Thank you again, and we wish you all the best of luck in your new ventures. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will transition to the Albany Police Department presentation. And we'll get started in about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, Chief, thank you for your patience this evening in joining us. At this time, I'll hand it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm Brendan Cox, here with Judith Logan Edmonds, and Karen Unterreiner is also here. And of course, Gideon's joining us as well. I'll go through the slides. So our mission, you guys have seen every year, so we strive to eliminate crime and fear of crime by inspiring and empowering our community to work together to improve our quality of life and make Albany one of the safest communities in America. We're dedicated to protecting the community we serve by proactively improving the quality of life. We inspire confidence through a collaborative effort to problem solving and enforcement of laws. The Albany Police Department is proud to provide multiple services to our community in the interest of maintaining and enhancing public safety. The department recognizes the need to enhance the wellness for our entire workforce so that our services to the community remain at the highest level possible, and we're committed to this mission and the direction it guides us. As you see, our budget ultimately follows that. So we provide multiple services to our community in the interest of maintaining and enhancing public safety. I would note that we actually have 3 budgets within the police department. We have the police budget itself, which is a little over $66 million. We have the communications budget, which is a little bit over $4 million. Communications handles police, fire, EMS, and ambulance, and the animal control budget, which is just under $500,000. When we talk about community policing, that is the core ethics of what we do. A lot of times we talk about the neighbor engagement unit, but ultimately we have a number of different initiatives that enhance our community policing initiatives. So a number of things I want to highlight that we ultimately accomplished this year, or in the process of accomplishing. The first one is that we partnered with Albany County to integrate county-based street psychiatry initiative into behavioral health response for the unsheltered population. That's an ongoing initiative that we're utilizing state funding to do. We ultimately provided $250,000 to the county, to Albany County Department of Mental Health, to provide that street psychiatry. We're in the process of working with them on a full procedure for that. They've hired the majority of the staff. That will allow us to be able to have Albany County mental health workers not only out on the street with us, but also recognizing that there are many unsheltered folks that have unmet behavioral health issues, and those folks aren't making it into a clinic to ultimately get mental health services. This will actually get a team of mental health workers out onto the street, helping to address some of those mental health issues. They'll even be able to provide them with prescriptions, medication, and other things. I'm going to get a little bit more into our community advocacy response team, our CART team, in a few minutes, but we did create and launch the CART team. The CART team is the social work initiative that's been spoken about for a while. I'm going to talk about that in a little more depth in a minute. We continue to have our To Reach and Connect officers that ultimately connect with our youth to help create mentorship with our youth, to really give them a way to really address some of the unmet needs of our youth and really help connect to them and get them to services and ultimately deflect them out of the juvenile justice system. We've done a lot of work around recruitment and retention. I'll also touch more on that in a minute, but we have the Police Explorer program. We also have the Cadet program. Those have been increased this year. We have law enforcement assisted diversion. We have the rape aggression defense training that we provide to the community. We've done a really additional training in the community for crime prevention through environmental design. We've sent a number of officers through the Department of Criminal Justice Services training this year to increase the CEPDED initiative. That way we can get out into the community, ultimately do assessments on a number of properties, and really help strategically address some of the different properties that exist throughout the city to really address some of the things like lighting and fencing and other things to be able to prevent crime before it occurs. Our critical asset assessment team is one of the key strategic pieces to keeping this city safe as the capital of New York. That is a team that goes out and helps us really provide strategy around making sure that we are not victims of terror, but they also help provide assessment on things like after New Orleans, where a car purposely drove into a parade, helping us assess how we provide safety and security for parades, safety and security for our large-scale events. So this year we changed how we address parades, how we address events. When we had at the MVP Arena, when we had the large-scale event this year, the 3-day event over with the, I'm forgetting what they were called now, it was the, no. The CrossFit, thank you, yes. See, I'm losing my mind. The CrossFit Games, the critical asset assessment team worked hand in hand with the Sheriff's Department to ensure that all went very well. We had that set up so that way everybody was safe. We continue to do the civilian response active shooter events to ensure that all of our events are, everybody's safe, that folks know how to react in the case of an active shooter. Our Citizens Police Academy continues to be very, very successful. We had about 19 people go through this year. I know a number of people have asked me if we can increase the number of times we do that a year. We'd love to do that more than once a year. It takes a lot of assets for our team to do. Our folks that ultimately oversee the Citizens Police Academy also oversee all of our training for both our recruits and for our in-service training, so it's difficult to do that more than once. I'd love to do that more than once a year, but it's difficult to do. And then ultimately the community liaison program, where we take our newest recruits and get them out into the community and really get them to know folks within our community, so no matter where our officers are from that we hire, they really become ingrained in this community. And that's really important. One of the reasons why we no longer take part in the Zone 5 Academy and we do our own police academy is because when we were a part of the Zone 5 Academy, we could not take those in the police academy and bring them out into the community because they were constantly tied up in Schenectady and we could not get them here. But one of the reasons why you've all seen our recruits out at events and constantly involved in the community is because they are ours. We ultimately control exactly what they do, and that's part of that. So, recruitment efforts. So we are still short when it comes to our sworn force, about 75 people. However, we have enhanced greatly participation in what we do. And we have some ideas on some things we need to do in 2026 to change how we hire people that we think can change. But some of the highlights that I just want to go over. So we took part in an unbelievable amount of job fairs, an unbelievable amount of events at colleges, an unbelievable amount of events out in the community to really talk to individuals about signing up for the police exam, what it means to be a police officer, talk to people about not just people who already had an inkling to be an officer, but people who might not know that they'd want to be a police officer. We also talked to a lot of community members who know individuals that they think could be good police officers, because what we know is that people like yourselves know individuals that you know have empathy, you know that could be good public servants, that could be good at providing public safety, that individual might not know at 22 or 23 years of age that they could make a good police officer. So we did a lot of work with individuals to get people signed up for our exam. We hosted an open house at headquarters to really get people signed up so they could see all the different things that the Albany Police Department offers. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to the Capital Region and it comes to the police departments, this police department offers the most of any other police department in the Capital Region, especially when it comes to the units that exist within our department. And the women and men of our department go far and beyond, no offense to any other police department in the area or this state, but go far and beyond what other police departments do. And we have the ability to have a lot of movement in this department and do a lot of different things. So we were able to really highlight a number of the things we do, and we had people sign up right on the spot. We also, with our training unit and with our recruiters, because we have a group of about 25 individual officers that take part in recruiting, we were able to have bi-monthly physical agility workshops to help prepare applicants to know that, hey, after you take the test, when you get your test score, you have to be ready to take a physical agility test, so that way we can move you to the next level of hiring, because after you take the civil service test, you have to take a physical agility test, you then have to take a medical test, you then have to take a psychological test, you have to take a background investigation, all the different pieces that it takes to get hired. So we had workshops that were going on, we kept people engaged, we wanted to make sure that people understood that this was not just about passing an exam. We also hosted an exam prep course in collaboration with the police tutorial services. So anybody that's ever taken a police test or a promotional exam in policing knows that police tutorial services is one of those groups nationally that gives police and police recruits kind of a leg up when it comes to doing much better on an exam. So we had an in-person tutorial, and people that couldn't make it in person could also take that course online, and we did that all for free. And we had a number of attendees come, and that helped people feel more comfortable when they took the exam. To enhance our recruitment efforts, we also, on top of the city website, we realized that we needed to have our own branded website. So we have jointheapd.com. That jointheapd.com, so I know the purchasing of vehicles is one of those things we'll talk about in a little bit, but on all of our new police vehicles, you're going to see jointheapd.com on all of those vehicles. We purchased a bunch of barriers that are going to be deployed to a lot of our events. You're going to see jointheapd.com on those barriers. You're going to see jointheapd.com on a lot of things, because we want people to see, whether it's to be a sworn police officer, to be a dispatcher, to be a member of our CART team, to know that all they got to do is go to jointheapd.com and they can see what it means to be a police officer. So that website's launched, it's on our Facebook page, it's on our Instagram page, it's on all of our social media, and it's going to be branded very much all over the place. We presented to 31 different criminal justice classes on all of our local campuses. Albany, Siena, Sage, Hudson Valley, Columbia Green. I'll get to the dispatchers in a minute, but I'll go to that. We did a lot of work with our dispatchers. We also created a brand new internship program. So we've always taken interns into the police department, but we've never had a formal program. It's always been somebody calls and says, hey, I've got a student, I think they'd be a good intern, can you guys squeeze them in? And we figured out a way to take them in. We realized that we weren't doing the people that were coming to be an intern within the department any justice, and we weren't doing the department any justice, because at the end of the day, we weren't getting a lot out of the people that were coming, nor were we holding on to those interns, because we weren't highlighting everything the department had. So I had a great sergeant and a great officer that came in and said, let's make this formal. Let's actually make sure that our internship program matches what the department wants, what the department has, and let's have this be a vehicle for recruitment. There's no reason why our college students that are taking criminal justice, that are taking social work, that are taking other things that would recruit into the police department are leaving the Albany area, that are leaving the city and not becoming Albany police officers. So we had a soft rollout over the summer, and we had 2 interns that started the program. In the fall, we had 6 interns, and we were being pretty picky on how we ultimately took those interns, because we really wanted to get a feel for how this would work. Had a structured curriculum, really exposed all the students to various areas of the department, and it matched the interns up with very specific people within the department who also had projects that they were working on. So that way, the individual that ultimately paired up with the intern could also have that intern work on a specific project they were dealing with. Like one of our officers, the officer Mallory Morgan, that was very much involved in this initiative, she's working on a use of force initiative that we're looking at. She's looking at all of our use of force. She's trying to do a study on our use of force to see how we can improve both our training and our outcomes for use of force. Very intelligent young woman that's on our police department. So she's making sure that the intern that's working with her is somebody that's also into data and into research. So that person's working with her. The amazing thing is that not only has this been really impressive, for the spring of 2026, we already have 42 applicants to be interns within our department. Now, we're not going to be able to take on 42 interns. Maybe 3 years down the road, we'll be able to take 42 interns on. But that is an amazing amount of interns to be able to look at for our department, for the future of our department, to be able to say that if we can get 5–10% of those interns to eventually become police officers, to become crime analysts, to become CART members, to become dispatchers, that will help deal with some of our recruiting efforts, some of our, ultimately, some of our staffing issues. We joined the 30 by 30 initiative. So the 30 by 30 initiative is part of the policing project out of NYU School of Law. It was started a number of years ago when it was recognized that diversity is an issue in policing. Diversity is especially an issue in policing for women in policing. And when it comes to not only recruiting, but retainment for policing, for women in policing. So we were actually doing a lot of things for recruiting and retaining women in policing 10 years ago. Why we didn't join 30 by 30 when it started, I can't answer. I wasn't here. But at the end of the day, the director of the 30 by 30 initiative is actually somebody that was a crime analyst for the Finn Institute with the Schenectady Police Department. She went on to work for the NYPD. It's somebody I know very well. So we reached out to her, and we just started the 30 by 30 initiative, and that is something that we're doing, again, not only for recruitment efforts, but also to make sure we're supporting the women, not only that are the sworn members of our department, but for our non-sworn members and our communication members, because as a guy who's an Irish white guy, it was very easy for me to walk into this department and be accepted. We need to make sure we're supporting the women in our department. When it comes to our communications division, as you all know, we were short, there were 18 or 19 people, I think about 6 months ago. We are now, where are my numbers? We have decreased our number of dispatcher vacancies from 18 to 9, with 2 new dispatchers starting on the 10th of November. Now, we've had a lot of applicants come in to our dispatch unit. We have taken a slow, methodical process of hiring dispatchers, of training them, and getting that staffing back up. So we're going to be in single digits as far as vacancies go, and I know that we're going to continue to knock that down, and I have no doubt that come the first quarter of next year, I believe we will be flat, and we will have exactly what we need to do. That has not only decreased our overtime, it's decreased our mandatory overtime, which is one of the key things we needed to do. We need to do that on the police end too, but for our dispatchers were being mandated to work double shifts. They were being mandated to work 7 days a week. We needed to get that down. It was affecting how 911 calls were being taken. It was affecting how people were calling the 911 system, and it was ultimately creating health and wellness issues for our communications workers. So that number, through our recruitment efforts, has been helped. So we were very, very focused on our sworn, and we made sure that we were not only focused on sworn, but we were also started to work on our dispatchers. We also started to recognize that we have a lot of young folks that are interested in being police officers that might not be quite ready to be a police officer, but are certainly ready to be a dispatcher. So we started recognizing that that needs to be an avenue that we take advantage of as well. So it is something that we're utilizing and doing. One of the things that we have been trying to get off the ground is the hiring of part-time individuals within our communications division. That is still in the works. One of the holdups to that is the civil service process. Because of civil service rules, we have an active civil service list of telecommunications specialists, and we have to ensure, so one of the stipulations for a part-time telecommunications specialist is that you have to have previous experience as a telecommunications specialist, which means you have to have previous experience as a dispatcher. We have to ensure that no one on the active list has previous experience before we can hire somebody else that's not on that list. It's another reason why I'm going to ask in 2026 to break away from civil service and do our own civil service within the city. Because New York State civil service is antiquated, it's holding us up, it's creating problems. I'm very happy that it's not causing problems for the fire department, but it's causing problems for us. So, when it comes to CART, so the social work initiative, when I came back, we had budgeted spots for 10 crisis caseworkers and 2 supervising senior crisis caseworkers. I appreciate this team here. You guys made a change for us so we could do 3 senior crisis caseworkers and 9 crisis caseworkers. Those crisis caseworkers turned into the CART team. So the Community Advocacy Response Team is a specialized unit within the Albany Police Department that pairs crisis caseworkers with our law enforcement to respond to many, many types of calls. And I know everybody's going to focus on the first one I say, but respond to mental health crisis, substance use concerns, homelessness, and other quality of life calls. They are going on everything from juveniles who are acting out in crisis to domestic violence calls to somebody sleeping on the sidewalk. They ultimately focus on diverting nonviolent calls away from police response to ensuring individuals receive the right care and services while allowing officers to focus on public safety. They are ultimately responding in 2 separate ways. Right now, they are in a co-response model. Now, I want everybody to take off their hats that think they know what co-response is, what the definition of co-response is. We are not doing traditional co-response. Co-response, if you Googled it, is going to come up and say it's a police officer and a social worker going to a behavioral health call. That is not what we're doing. Co-response in our model means that a call for service comes in and we're sending a police officer and the CART team together to figure out what that individual needs. And it's based on the circumstances that we know. So it means that we're not sure that it should be a police officer and we're not sure it should be a CART worker because we don't know if we need an armed response or a non-armed response. And until we figure that out, we're going to send both of them and have them figure it out together. And if the CART team gets there and they say we don't need an armed response, they can cancel the officers. If the officers get there and they're like, nope, this is completely an armed response and the CART team's not appropriate right now, they can turn around and say, CART team, you guys need to hang back because you're not appropriate. So that is our co-response. Our co-response is not Judith and myself, sworn officer, non-sworn, going together on a mental health call. That's what traditional co-response is. So that means that we can go on an array of calls though, because traditional co-response is just about mental health, and mental health is very important, but we can go on an array of calls together. They can also go as alternative responders. As alternative responders, they go by themselves. They go in pairs, but they don't need police to go with them. So that is coming next. Right now, we are taking this slow and steady. So right now, they are still in a co-response. They ultimately not only get dispatched by our communications folks, but they also can be proactive. So they're not doing traditional case management. And by me saying they're not doing traditional case management, I just mean they're not going to do long-term case management, but they do have a caseload. So if they're dealing with me and they know me, they're going to do follow-up with me, and they're going to make sure that I get connected to the right service. So if my issues that I have are that I need housing, they're going to follow up with me and make sure that I get to the right service provider, and they're going to follow up with the right service provider to make sure that I'm getting connected to that provider and that things are following through. And they can follow through if the store owner, if I'm at Pine and Pearl and the Dunkin' Donuts is the store owner calling, they can follow up with the Dunkin' Donuts to let them know that they're working with me and what's happening. So that way we keep that community engagement going on too, so the store owner doesn't think we forgot all about them. So they're also not only they're not just reactive, they're also proactive. Our CART staff, we're at 2 supervisors, 6 crisis caseworkers. We'll continue to hire to get to the 9. We are right now working the day shift. That is why we're in training. We're going to expand to 4 to 12. I was very happy. I was out with the midnight crew the other night, and some of the midnight officers were asking me when they're going to see the CART team, so I was very happy to see that officers are already asking for them. They've underwent an extensive training. They've done 80 hours of supervised field training. They worked alongside our dispatchers, our officers, and other CART caseworkers. They also did 88 hours of academy-based classroom training that focused on crisis intervention, mental health first aid, communication skills, public safety coordination, and CIT I mentioned. So that is where we are with the CART team. Also in 2025, Judith was able to implement a number of pieces to help us better track our grants. So we have put together the Amplifund Grant Management Platform and Asset Management, or excuse me, the Amplifund Grant Management Platform. So that is going to help us do 2 things with our grants. One, it's going to help us better track our grants to make sure that we're spending and reporting back to the budget department, to you all, and it's going to help us search for more grants. We recognize that although we get a decent amount of grant funding, we want to increase our grants. We also implemented an asset management tracking program. So one of the things that in a grant, one of our grants in one of the oversight functions, one of our grantors came in to do oversight, and one of the things they recognized is that we need to do a better job of tracking our assets, especially assets that we buy that are over $5,000. So we're going to do a little bit better job of tracking our assets by tagging them, having a database of where they are. Now, everybody might say, well, geez, that sounds like something you should be doing. Keep in mind, we buy things like cameras and we put them up on poles and we put them at intersections. They want us to be able to tag those things, be able to actually have a better tracking system. So there are a lot of different pieces to that, but it's something we're going to be able to do at a more, I don't want to call it simple because I don't think it's going to be simple, but at the end of the day, we'll have a database, we'll have a better way to track, understand where things go. We work with a lot of vendors. A lot of our vendors do these things for us, so a lot of our vendors are going to have to ultimately do this for us. And then we also implemented a travel and training management system. So the fiscal unit, appreciate the fact that the budget office, the mayor, the council allots us a good amount of finances to train our officers, our staff. That's important for us to be able to do. But sending people all over the place takes time, takes energy, takes resources. So we implemented a travel and training management system. It is with a company that ultimately does this on a national and international level. Somebody I worked with in my previous job that works with many government entities. It will provide us a digitized workflow and bookings. It will provide us for what I believe to be a cost savings. So at the end of the day, we implemented that. As you all know, we eliminated a couple of positions in order to create a better environment. So we are in the process. We've had a number of interviews for our health and wellness director. We have a couple of second interviews coming up. That will help us to improve the well-being of our employees. Our special patrol officers, that initiative is getting off the ground. We are in the process of onboarding 7 of the 10 special patrol officers So I believed we were going to be hiring mostly part-time people coming back. The majority of the people that we interviewed wanted to come back full-time. So we were hiring 7 people. We'll hire the 3 additional allotted slots in the coming weeks. As you'll see in the 2026 budget, we asked for an additional 2 slots. We did not, as you all know, in the 2025 budget, in order to get those slots, we made an adjustment in the patrol officer numbers so we could do that. We did not use the patrol officer line to do that. We used other positions to do that. So at the end of the day, we're looking to increase that. We got a lot of interest from retired officers for that. We're being picky as we hire back, so it's taking our time. We continue to increase public safety. We've had a 12% decrease in violent crime, a 14% decrease in property crime, a 22% decrease in personal injury crashes. Overall crashes are down about 8%, but I thought it was really important to show that when it comes to things like our speed cameras, our red light cameras, the new bus arm cameras for school buses, the speed limit going down. The biggest thing those are meant to do is to reduce when an impact happens for a crash, to reduce personal injury. That's a 22% decrease in personal injuries. And ultimately, we've had a 53% decrease in shooting incidents. That means 53% decrease in the amount of people being struck by gunfire. When it comes to our numbers, so our authorized positions are staying the same from 2025 to 2026. So the things that we've changed, as I said, I eliminated a deputy chief to do the health and wellness. I eliminated a chief of staff position to do a project manager. Those are very important pieces to what we're doing. And then ultimately we shifted people around to be able to do the special patrol. We continue to struggle with hiring, but we need to do innovative things to ultimately be able to get to the numbers we're at. Personnel service did go up slightly. I know you guys, somebody asked before. I believe that is strictly contractual. Equipment lines, that has gone up. Contractual expenses has gone up. Employee benefits has actually gone down slightly. Total expenditures has gone up slightly. Department revenue has gone down slightly. And then expenditures has gone up slightly. Our grants, Judy and her team and my command staff does a great job continuing to look for grants. So the gun-involved violence elimination initiative, that is one of our large funding streams from New York State. We actually got an increase in funding from New York State this year on GIVE. So that was a $1 million period for June 30th of 2025. And I know this says 1 million for 2026, but I actually think that went to 1.3. That is something we share. I just want to note, we utilize that for staffing, for overtime, for equipment, and a lot of innovation. And that is one of the main pieces that continues to help us decrease our violent crime. Homeland Security, that is another piece that we utilize a lot for equipment and technology. The New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services Violence Intervention Surge, that is that downtown funding. That was $1 million that the state provided. That was utilized for 3 pieces. That was utilized for technology, the street psychiatry initiative, and ultimately for overtime. The overtime piece we'll monitor, but at the end of the day, much of that will go towards technology. Law enforcement technology, another piece of technology. I know I've said technology now 10 times in a row. The Crime Analysis Center sits in our building. Our number of cameras, our number of plate readers, I know plate readers can get scary for everybody. All of our data is our data. It's no one else's data. It's not ICE's data. They have no access to our data. I'm going to say that again. ICE has no access to our data. It is our data. Nobody gets it but us. Our cameras, our plate readers, our continued improvement. I'll talk about RMS and CAD in a minute and what we do at Axon and what we're looking to do for the next 10 years. That helps us solve crimes. That helps us keep the public safe. That helps us keep our officers safe. Technology is expensive. These grants are what's going to continue to help us get to where we need to get. It's what's going to continue to help us do the things that we need to do. So we need these grants to ultimately be able to get to where we are. Anybody that wants to see the Crime Analysis Center, anybody who wants to see our technology, anybody who wants to see where we were 2 years ago, where we are now, and where we're going to be in 2 years, just let me know, and we will sit down and show you A to Z. It is impressive, and it will continue to be impressive. The JAG funding, so there was some funding that we utilized on the improvements at the Crime Analysis Center. We had to put a fence around our parking lot. If I could destroy the fence, I would. I can't. I'm sorry. We have some funding for vests and protective gear for our officers, and then other state and federal grants. Where am I? So, our goals for 2026, we will continue to implement new technology. So, one of our major projects this year was to change out and improve our computer-aided dispatch and records management system. So we have awarded the records management system to Axon Systems. So Axon Systems, Axon is a very large company. Axon provides a number of products, a number of technologies for us. They ultimately house a number of different companies that they are, I don't even know how to describe it, but ultimately fall under their umbrella. They're the umbrella parent company for. But our current records management system falls under Pulsium. Pulsium has been known in my entire career under a number of different names because they've been bought out by a number of different companies. That records management system is old, it's antiquated. Thankfully, we are changing. We've signed a new agreement with Axon. We will be we're in an 18-month process to have a new records management system under Axon to transition all of our old records that are in the Pulsium database into the Axon system. That is in the process. As Chief Gregory stated, there are records in there for fire as well and EMS. Fire and EMS are in the process of choosing their own fire records management system. There is also the computer-aided dispatch system. We are finalizing which one of the companies we will go with for our computer-aided dispatch system. Because we have not signed an agreement yet and finalized that, I won't say which company we are going with, although we have made that decision. Along with that, there is the capital, the 5-year capital improvement project. There is the funding for that in our capital project for next year. A preview for 2027 and beyond, we will have a much more significant impact beyond next year. And part of the reason for that is Axon, and the reason why I'm making sure I explain this, and I'll explain it as best I can, is the umbrella company for a number of our different technologies that all ultimately embed our body-worn camera systems, our in-car camera systems, our interview cameras, even though they don't oversee all of our street level and crime cameras, there is a system that they ultimately oversee that helps us embed that camera system so we can ultimately see it at our fusion center, the Crime Analysis Center, in a much more coherent way that they ultimately house. The taser system, they ultimately have. What we have not introduced yet for technology, we have drones. They do have those drones. We do plan on enhancing our drone ability to ultimately having a drone first responder initiative starting next year. That will enhance everyone's public safety. You will all be privy to the policy as we ultimately draft that and have input. But at the end of the day, if we have a missing person, we'll be able to launch a drone off of most likely headquarters and be able to have a drone so we can ultimately see where that person was and have response with our officers and be able to find a person much quicker than we can with just officers on the street. So there's a whole embedded program. So as we move on from the 2026 budget, where the cost is not as expensive, the cost in coming years is going to increase for our Axon contract. And we are in the process of working with legal, working with budget to ultimately execute that contract. We will be utilizing much of the grant funding that I pointed out on some of that technology and future grants, as well as future capital project funding in order to be able to pay for that. So that's part of the technology. Facility improvements, so headquarters has been improved and upgraded. South and Center Station, the lobbies and the roll call rooms have been upgraded. South Station, next year we will be looking to upgrade the second floor bathrooms for the detective division, which are all, I'm just going to say, they're disgusting. They need to be upgraded. The West Station and the training center, that needs improvements for the bathrooms and for the gym. And then what's not on here is the farm. The farm is in need of a new roof, the stable. So we've paid for the initial assessment, but that's going to be about $500,000 itself. So we have ongoing facility improvements at our center, South Station, West Station. I don't mean the Administrative Services Training Center that we currently lease. I mean the West Station, the station where the police and fire exist, 195 Washington Avenue Extension, and the farm. We continue on our gun violence reduction, and then ultimately we continue to increase our training. We have a current academy class in that will be graduating on December 4th, and we have a new academy class going in. They are getting sworn in on November 7th, and they will start on November 10th. So recruitment, I talked a lot about recruitment. In the budget, one of the major pieces of recruitment, you will see an increase. So exam stats, I want to touch on that for a second. So in May, we recruited 293 people to take the exam. 172 showed up to take it. September, we recruited 425 people to take the exam. So I just want to say that again. In May, our recruiting team recruited 293 people to take the exam. In September, they recruited 425 people. So they're out there working. They're recruiting people to take the test. I'm old, I'm 55. I waited in a line at Hackett to take the test with 2,000 other people in 1992 or 93, whenever I took it and finally got hired in 1994. In September, 165 people showed up. We got to change what we're doing. And I don't mean we got to change what we're doing to get people to sign up, because 425 people signed up compared to 293 people 2 months before. So I can't do math, but 425 plus 293, that's a lot of people. My people worked their tails off getting people in. We got to get away from civil service. I don't know what else to say. But we can't sign people up for an exam and say 2 months from now show up and take an exam. Because these kids, and sorry, they're kids to me, because my kids are 28 and 25, That's not how they come to take exams anymore. So in 2026, we got to get away from civil service, at least state civil service. And there's a path forward. New York State's police do it already. So I'm going to be asking you for your help, because we're probably going to need legislation, and we're probably going to need to go to the state and say, hey, we're doing this ourselves. Because I need to be able to sign somebody up to take an exam and say, here, go to this center, or you just got to come tomorrow, or you can take this exam right now. And then be able to give them a score back in a reasonable amount of time. Not say, hey, 3 months from now, I'm still waiting for an exam score. And I'm waiting for everybody else's exam score too. Because I also know that the 13 people that are about to, the 13 people that are about to graduate from our current class, and the 15 people that we're about to hire, we're behind the 8 ball, because everybody gets the exams at the same exact time. Or, worse yet, people get the exam scores before us. And I know that there was agencies that got exam scores before we did, that got to ultimately start recruiting people before we did off the last exam. And that's not a fault of anybody in this city. That's the way the process goes. So we need to be able to give our own exam on our own time schedule, because guess what? I don't have to wait for an academy to start. This last group that we're hiring, 15 people, we already have 3 of them. They're already our employees. I didn't have to wait until the academy started. They were ready to be hired. One of them was leaving the country. We said, well, before he leaves the country, offer him the job. And when he comes back, let's hire them. We already have them working for us. They're going to be sworn in on November 7th with the other folks at the same time. But they've already been collecting a paycheck from us. I don't mean they're sitting home. I mean they're working for us. So we need to change what we're doing. At the end of the day, if we're going to change and we're going to actually get back the 75 people that were short, we need to be able to change. So in the budget, I say all this because in the budget, we increased our budget line based on contracted services. That's one of the reasons why you'll see that, because we need to be able to pay to provide for our own exam. It's not expensive. I was waiting for a number of like $150,000. We had to increase by like $40,000 to do this. It's not a lot, but obviously we're going to need to increase that. This budget year, it's not an increase for 2026. We've got a new recruiting video that we're in the process of shooting. The Police and Fire Foundation was gracious enough to donate half the funding, and we utilized our operating funding to pay for the rest of it. So that is the capital budget summary. So we need to continue to upgrade our infrastructure improvements in the police station. Listen, our police stations are woefully inadequate. We'll continue to work and improve those. We don't have enough space. We'll continue to work for strategies to address that. At the end of the day, we need to, some point in time, we need to address our training facility. Our vehicle and equipment replacement, $1.5 million. We'll make do. We'll figure it out. We do have a matrix. We do have a pretty strict schedule of how we rotate our vehicles through. We do our best. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to vehicles. Our frontline vehicles, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's a struggle. That is where we struggle, is those frontline vehicles. We try to keep a lot of other vehicles on for a long time. Some of those other vehicles happen to be expensive to change. It is, you know, for the equipment that goes in the vehicles, it winds up at least doubling the cost of a car by the time we equip that car. So that is part of the problem too. It's not just as simple as the car. That equipment is a lot. That public safety IT system, that is CAD and RMS. That ultimately, again, that number we're good with for this year. That number in 2027 is going to be a challenge for us, but that's a challenge for 2027, and we will work to make sure that that's not everybody's challenge. We'll make sure that's solved by the time we get to 2027, and I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Chief. A lot of great information shared. and I'm sure we have a lot of questions. Just to start, I want to say thank you for your diligence today in this presentation, but also the leadership that you have brought to our police department and overall all your police department and the efforts that they do to make our city a safer place. So thank you for that, and I'll turn to committee members for initial questions. Councilmember Keegan.
Thank you again for making time to meet with us this evening. And you have a longer budget than AFD, so I'm going to have a lot more questions for you, so I apologize in advance. It's not you, it's just you have more line items. You talked to us a lot about the staffing changes in the department, and I know the staffing levels are remaining at 414. We already sort of went over the chief of staff, but I just wanted to sort of understand what I'm seeing in terms of the positions that it looks like we're eliminating to create some of the newer positions. So it looks like we're eliminating our part-time hostlers. No.
No.
I don't see any allocated positions for them. Do they go
Yes.
someplace else?
No, so just as a point of presentation on the part-time positions, you'll see those aren't numbered. The salary is just there.
Okay. Okay. And then it looks also as if you're reducing the program technicians from 6 to 3.
So yes, so one of those positions is going to an administrator supervisor in our computer technology unit.
Okay.
So that is one of the technology, as I spoke about a lot, is a key piece of what we do. So Commander Decker requested that we put a supervisor within the computer technology unit. That will do two things. One, that will give upward mobility within that unit that does not exist right now. Two, that will help bring an entry-level person in once we bring that mobility to that unit. So we're going to create that so that way that unit can grow and help continue to support the technology needs the department has. So one of those positions is going to that. And then two of those positions is how we created the additional special patrol officers.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm assuming that the majority change in salary were negotiated raises. It's about, for those who are listening, it's about 1.6 million differential.
Those are the PBA and superior officers' contracts primarily.
Okay. And then it looks like your planned expenditures for uniforms are going down by about 80,000. Is that based on this year's expenses?
Yeah, and you can see, last year we only spent about $141,000, so just sort of right-sizing that appropriation.
Okay. And our motor vehicle expense line, is those the replacement of vehicles that are built into the budget as opposed to bonded? Or is that totally different?
No, those are services and repairs.
Okay. And you guys noted, and it's not an incredible amount of money, but it is almost double the budget for criminal expenses from 8,000 to 15,000.
So one of the things that happened is that the seized asset forfeiture funding changed the rules on us, the federal government did. So we used to utilize, and this was legitimate, the old rules allowed us to use seized asset funds, which you would think they would continue it this way, to pay for criminal expenses for things like buy money, things like that, specifically for narcotics investigations. They changed the rules on us a couple of months ago, so that is now having to come out of operating funds.
Okay. There was also a significant increase in longevity by about $100,000 that just sort of stuck out to me. Do we know why that went up so much? Is it that we just have officers or did they build some kind of longevity payment into the budget?
Yeah, I think that a lot of that is the contract settlement for the non-sworn as well as longevity increases for police officers as well.
Okay. And then the line for lineup pay and clothing allowance went down. Is that just because of actuals? Went down by about 40,000.
Yeah, and we made some contractual changes with some people, or with some of the units, to sort of adjust those items in exchange for other pieces of
Okay.
their compensation.
'Cause I know we settled,
Yeah.
I'm assuming we settled the telecommunications contract. That's done.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any outstanding? Because I believe it was the officer's contract, but then the sergeants.
Yeah, so we settled the superior officers during 2024, and PBA, I believe we settled in '23, and we settled with the non-sworn units of this department this year.
Okay. And then if we go on to page 52 of the budget book, 1520, police details, we expect another 50,000 in revenue. Is that based on this year's
Yeah,
actual revenue?
based on last year's actual and this year's, yes.
And I think we already talked about this. The court fines got shifted around because of the speed cameras. It's reallocated to a much more consistent line item in the
Correct.
budget.
Yes.
And we talked about the stop arm violations. Have we looked at, because again, the city of Albany, we traditionally are relying upon CDTA, not so much school buses. So I know that we base this on data that we're seeing from other communities. Are we anticipating having that much stop arm bus traffic in the city?
Yeah, that's the anticipation, working with the vendor and number of buses and violations per bus from other jurisdictions.
Okay. We're anticipating revenue from Homeland Security that went from 435 to 884.
Yeah, I mean, that's just timing of recognizing some of the revenue. As the chief mentioned, the grants management software, sometimes a few periods of these grants build up, so we're going to have a little bit more available in the next period than previous.
And then New York State Public Safety is at the same case. It goes from 200 to 270,000. Because I'm assuming these are multi-year grants.
Yes.
And I think we talked about this before, but we're still fairly confident that the JAG money, so on and so forth, that was allocated, I mean, again, it's not significant money, but we're still fairly confident that they're not necessarily going to make cuts to law enforcement and DOJ.
I mean, impossible to say that with 100% certainty, but, generally, law enforcement is an area in which the current federal majority usually likes to expend.
Okay. And then the BGA grant, that's going up by $384,000. That's the smart policing, or no, I'm sorry, the justice forfeiture.
So that's just gonna, as the chief mentioned, we have some new additional programs like the CART that, are gonna be eligible for use of that money.
Okay. And that's, when we look on page 53 for the telecommunications staff, I'm assuming the differential in salary is related to the contract that we just settled with them. That's going up by about 2.3 million from last year. Our salary totals.
On communications?
Under telecommunications, yeah. It went from 2.3 million to
Yeah,
about
to
2.5.
2.6, yes. That represents and also, that settled, you're looking at a significant level increase as we settled maybe 3 years to 26, 24, 25, and 26.
Okay. Those are all of my questions thus far. Thank you.
Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Cheryl. I want to thank you for taking so much time with us, Chief. I also want to thank you for your work and your creativity. and trying to find some solutions to some of these problems that we're facing. And I want to commend you for looking at finding new ways to bring in additional staff when we're in a critical shortage. 75 officers down is less than we were a few months ago, but it's still significant when we look at the overall. So I appreciate you taking the effort and putting in the work to find new creative ways to try to fill some of these holes and make it so that our officers aren't being forced to do overtime over overtime over overtime, and given some time to be with their families and some time to be for them to also re-energize. I'm also glad to see that we're doing much better with our vacancies, with our telecommunication efforts. You know, I'm optimistic about hearing that we may be flat next year. That's a good place to be from where we've been the last few years. So, you know, thank you for your work on that and for your work encouraging policy changes to help get there as well. My question on that is, we did a study, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, that said 31 was low and that we needed a higher number. And we increased the higher number, and then like 2 or 3 years later, since we had so many vacancies, we lowered that number. Once we go back to flat, is it your prediction that we should start now then looking to rebuild that part of our team?
Yeah, I think it would be very much worthwhile, and I don't know if we need to do a full in-depth study, but certainly once we get back to what our numbers are reflecting here, that we make sure we pull that study out. We look at our numbers and we try to figure out if we're good or if we need to increase to what that study did show. But I think we need to do our due diligence at that time. And, you know, I think in the original agreement we made with Council 82 and the union, when we came to an agreement about the part-time employees, because I'm still confident we're going to get part-time employees, is that might be an area that we say, hey, we're at our number, our budgeted number. Do we want to continue to have part-time employees and have them help to address that gap, recognizing that we're still not there? That will help us to address not only the staffing needs, not only the public safety needs, but also be fiscally sound about it.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I look forward to having that conversation hopefully next year about actually increasing those numbers, you know, to be in a position to be able to do that is a good place to be. So again, that's appreciative. And the last thing is regarding the civil service exam, I think we should look at all of our options to eliminate the barriers to be able to get people to wear the uniforms if they want to, and to wear the uniforms here in our city. So I appreciate you taking on that effort again. So thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you all for joining us this evening and for your presentation. I have a few questions. I'll start with the budget questions. For the contractual expenditures, I just had a few questions on some of the line items as to get clarification on what they actually include. One is for the supplies and materials. I see that it is an increase from the 2025 budget number allocated there. Is there any specific reason for the amount increase for materials and supplies? It's the line item 7410.
So I actually believe that's where the recruiting line came in.
Okay.
Because that goes from the 327 to the 401, and I'm 99.9% sure that the big increase in that is the recruiting line.
Okay. The second question is for your contracted services line. What type of services do you normally put under this or falls under this?
That goes from everything to building maintenance, to vehicle maintenance, to our, although we have computer technology, they only do very basic work within our station, so to IT support, to our phone support, so that runs the array of all the support that we utilize.
And then final question under the contractual expenditures, the criminal expenses, what is that exactly?
So the criminal expenses is exactly so we can operate and utilize, whether it's doing our narcotics investigation, whether it's utilizing folks for undercover work, that is that line. And again, that was the funding that we used to utilize forfeiture funding for, and the federal government changed the rules on that. So we want to make sure we're in compliance with federal rules.
Understood. The other question is from the presentation that you gave in regards to the crime prevention through environmental design. Can you speak to that a little bit more as to how residents can utilize that?
So the main way that people access it now is usually through the beat officer. They usually ask to do that. However, we've been working with neighborhood services, and neighborhood services is going to actually put it up on the neighborhood services website, and they're going to have a form that you can fill out through neighborhood services, because we've, on top of training the police officers this year, we also trained, I believe we trained every neighborhood services specialist to also be able to do the SEPTED training. So people can now not only request that through their beat officer, but they're going to be able to go onto the neighborhood services website through the city and fill out a JOT form and request it. And then the neighborhood services specialist will work with the beat officer to coordinate the appointment with whether it's a resident, a business, whoever it might be, to go ahead out and do that.
Good to know. Final, I guess, question or remark is in regards to you spoke about recruitment. What I didn't hear too much of was the retention of the police officers too much, and the concerns that some of our current officers do have when it comes to, again, previous conversations that we've had before about just finding other opportunities, other places, other municipalities, being taken away from the department with the training that's being provided to them. So can you kind of speak to the retention? Because the second part to that question is going to be, is the concern about retirements coming up, and how many officers you're actually expecting to be retiring within this 2026 year. So it's a two-part question, if you don't mind.
It's a great question, and I think we talk about recruitment and sometimes forget about the retention. So there's been a number of things that have been done and we're continuing to do. So one of the things that we've done, and this is temporary, trying to make it permanent. One of the first things that I heard coming back was that officers aren't able to get time off, and it was very clear. I didn't have to hear it; I was seeing it. Officers are working 7 days a week, working double shifts, and they're not doing it purposely. They're getting mandated to. So we signed a temporary agreement with the PBA to automatically provide for 2 days off. So in the contract, it says you get 2 days off, but you get mandated to work. So we made it to where officers automatically get 2 days off. And I appreciate all the feedback from the officers, all the feedback from my command staff, and ultimately the work of the PBA to help make that happen. So we want to make that permanent, because we know that although we look at retainment for officers that are a bit older, we also know that we had some younger officers that were recognizing, I can go work for other municipalities and not be mandated to work on my days off and have a better quality of life. So that was one of the things we were able to do. When it comes to officers that are closer to retirement age, one of the benefits that our officers do not have is they don't have 60ths after working 20 years. So one of the retirement systems is that once officers hit retirement age in many municipalities throughout New York, you start earning 1/60th for every year beyond your eligible pension. So we're actively working, it's a negotiation, it's a mandatory issue negotiation. So Gideon in his office and Corporation Counsel and the Mayor's office, we've all been working with both the Supervisors Union and the PBA to try to get that done. That's, again, that's something we're trying to do because any amount of years that somebody stays beyond their 20 helps us to close the gap for hiring newer officers. And then, you know, one of the biggest reasons why we eliminated a deputy chief's position and are hiring the health and wellness coordinator is about, it's about all of our employees, but it's certainly about recognizing that we need to take better care of our officers, better care of all of our employees, so that they recognize that we care about them, that we are a family, and that there is, so we can never replace money, we can never replace benefits. Those are two extremely important things, but being part of a family and recognizing that there's more than money and benefits, that we care about everybody, and that their physical, their psychological, their mental, their whole well-being is what's important to us. That means a lot. So that position, that's going to mean a lot to be able to get that off the ground, because we have a really strong employee assistance program, but it's all peer-based. And quite frankly, I need to take care of those peers as well, because I've seen them after critical incidents and what they do to try to take care of officers, what they try to do to take care of dispatchers, and we need to do more and we need to be better. And then as far as the number of officers that can still retire, I mean, there's probably 24 officers that could walk out the door right now, and then there'll be another class in, I think, July that can go. So we're always falling into that every 6 months to 9 months with a group of officers that can leave.
All right, thank you for your response. My just general concern was, again, the likelihood or possibility of us losing even more officers due to retirement and just, you know, overworked and other competition. I had a few conversations with people within the department who also mentioned, and please clarify if I'm misspeaking with this, but in regards to their contract or the contract with the PBA, the healthcare incentives, I think I was told that, you know, previously they were, or APD maybe in the past, I'm not sure how long ago, maybe had certain healthcare benefits given to them and certain incentives and benefits being provided to them that no longer exist. Is that something that is also fixable or workable within the communications of the contract negotiations?
Yeah, I think those pieces are always on the table when it comes to contract. I mean, I don't want to get out ahead of the contract negotiations. I know we're a little bit off. I did talk about the 60ths, but you know, I've been here for a long time. I was gone for a little while, but I've been here for a long time. The health care, when it comes to paying your premium or having the full thing paid for by the city, that has been one of those pieces of negotiation that between the city and the unions has always been a give and take. There's time throughout my career where it's been fully paid for. There's been other times when it's been negotiated away, depending on other pieces that have been on the table. But I do see that as something that is an incentive, especially for the more senior officers. It's something our supervisors have, and I know that our supervisors appreciate having that.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your responses.
Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Chief, for all your work, and for everyone else here. first thing is the vehicles. It has been a conversation over the years to try to shift vehicles from bonding onto the regular budget. And the concept behind that is because the length of time that we need to bond is much longer than the length of the cars, the length of life of the cars, which is fine. I mean, we want our officers to be out in the community. A lot of that means driving around in a car. We totally understand that. But just in terms of the hit to our constituents, you spend a lot more money on money that you borrow versus money that you pay out of pocket. So it has been a desire over the years to shift as much as we can, understanding that it's also not something that you can just shift it all at once. And we were starting to shift some cars every year onto the police department budget, but it looks like we have stopped doing that because under equipment on page 51, 7230 vehicles, it looks like that's just not an option, unless there's another place where there are vehicles that I've missed. I thought perhaps it was the motor vehicle expense under contractual expenditures, but that is not it. So I just was wondering if we could discuss that a bit, because that just is, it's a significant cost for us to borrow continually, and it is something that should be shifted to an on-budget expense.
Well, for the past, I would say 3 years, yes, we funded the purchase of police replacement cars with cash, yes. And that isn't sort of reflected on what you're seeing on the general fund budget there, and is usually contained as a cash to capital appropriation on the capital side. Yes, I think we can all agree that that is less than ideal, but you know, we have to balance the budget with a whole bunch of factors to be considered, and you know, utilizing debt to purchase the police cars for a year is feels appropriate at this given time.
So this year we're not purchasing any police cars out of the general fund. We are only using debt to purchase police cars.
Correct.
And what were we purchasing police cars? Like, you know, what was our standard? Because it was something that we were legitimately building up. So I would say that it, you know, at this stage, that's as you know better than I do, because you work in budgets and I just dabble. When you remove a budget line, it becomes a lot harder to fill it. Like, so in other words, if we were up to $300,000, and then we would be gradually going up, you know.
So over the past 3 years, we've fully funded all the police cars with cash. So.
Okay,
yeah.
and so what's the expected bonding for police cars this year?
It's included in the capital budget at 1.5 million. That's a similar amount that was included in last year's capital budget to purchase cars that was funded with cash.
Okay, thank you. And then I wanted to confirm, because I think it's something that will definitely come up with my constituents. They're fully understanding that we are down 75 police officers, which whenever I hear my constituents say, why aren't they doing more enforcement? And I was like, they are doing their best with enforcement, but understand we're in such a dire situation with police right now. Traffic enforcement does not always rise to the top. So with that understood, there still is traffic enforcement that's happening, correct? I mean, it's not as if we have the school speed zones, and so it's like, cool, you know.
No, that's correct. We still have a fully staffed traffic unit. The traffic unit is fully staffed. Our officers that are in zone cars still enforce traffic laws. I did not bring our numbers, but I can certainly get those numbers to you. But no, we still continue to enforce traffic laws.
I just wanted to confirm that, because I was sure that looking at that budget number, in the revenue going down so much, that would be a question that I would get. That is a very valid question because throughout the city, that is, and speeding is definitely of major concern and is a major public safety issue.
And I just want to make sure people understand that there is no mandate for anyone, whether it's a traffic unit, a patrol unit, a beat officer. One of the things that there's not is there's no mandate for an officer to write a ticket. So my expectation is to enforce the law. Enforcing the law, though, does not mean they write a ticket. They can advise a person, just like if somebody violates, whether it's the vehicle and traffic law, whether it's the penal law, officers have options, and I expect them to use their options based on their discretion and based on what the root cause of the circumstance is and based on what the best outcome is.
Yes, and that will come up later in my questions. And completely understood, and sometimes, and often, I would say it's probably not necessarily the right thing to write a ticket, but I think most people need a reminder. A lot of people, it turns out, I think the school speed zones have opened people's eyes to how much they do not look at their speedometer when they drive around the city, and they should, and hopefully they do more often now. I think it's fantastic, the things that you're talking about doing, like with civil service, or I guess not doing with civil service anymore. I love that you are looking outside of the box and really looking to address the core issue, which is absolutely a huge issue. And if we clearly are in a crisis when it comes to hiring, the fact that we have to jump through all of these hoops to try to hire people, it just exacerbates the situation. So I know that my colleagues will join me, but if there's anything that I can do to be helpful, I am very happy to do it, because I agree. I think that is not working. And it's a system where things look different. There's a lot of rules, state laws about the police force that I think are, at one point, were put into place to help, and that's great. But now they're hindering hiring and hindering public safety, and that's something that is unacceptable. I'm sure well-intentioned, but it needs to be changed. I also, just another, I love the open house thing, and I will say, if you wanted to do one at Center Station, I am positive my colleague, Councilmember Anane, would join me in helping you host one if you wanted to. So I wanted to ask about the NEU status in terms of where you were with hiring. I've had several I've been through I had one for a very long time, and then since then I've had a lot of officers who seem to retire immediately after they become NEU officers. Which is a little sad because we like them, but then they're gone. So I'm just curious the status of it, because right now I honestly don't even know if I have it. I feel like I have NEU officers that are covering me that I don't really know who I should call for what, and I'm just curious what the status is for those officers.
So NEU still exists. There's still beat officers, there's still community services officers. School resource officers still fall under there. The track officer still falls there. But it is a matter of the fact that the entire department is down. So it is a matter of, it's a numbers game. If we were fully staffed, NEU would be fully staffed. If we were fully staffed, community response unit would be fully staffed. If we were fully staffed, forensics would be fully staffed. That is the problem. So you do have an officer that does cover you. He, however, covers a ridiculous amount. So, one of the things that is going to happen, and, listen, I have officers that are worried about this because they feel like their full-time job might be taken away, and that's not the intent of this. Some of the special patrol officers that come back, they're going to help out with some of the neighborhood engagement unit officers to help out with some of that community engagement. So that is one of the things that's going to happen. Like I said, they're onboarding now. They're starting, I think they're starting the first week of November. So they're going to help out with that until we get the proper staffing back. That class that's graduating in December, they're in field training. When they get off of field training, we'll be able to post some of those jobs. right now, if I was to post any of the neighborhood engagement unit jobs, I would be taking some squads that are down to 13 officers, and I wouldn't have any officers to respond to 911 calls. So that's the problem. I mean, in my community response unit, they just basically merged 2 shifts to be able to address the needs they have, and the needs we have to address guns, drugs, and other issues. So it's a balancing act. You know, I wish I wish I could say, you know, like, yep, the jobs are posted, but you know, until we get our numbers back up, it is a challenge. But the special patrol officers are going to help with community engagement. A couple of the people that we hired back did that in the past, and they're going to help out with that moving forward until we get staffed back to a reasonable amount.
And thank you so much. I completely understood. This was certainly, I think all of us understand well, we don't fully understand because we couldn't possibly fully understand how it is to juggle the demands with such a small staff. But we certainly appreciate it, and I would not want to take away from any other unit for it. I did just want to make sure that it was something that, you know, someday after we make all these changes and everything staffed, that we'll be able to go back to the, because it does make a huge difference. I mean, it's something that it's such a nice thing to be able to connect people, and it makes people feel safer. And I think it does make the community safer to have an officer so accessible like that and so really ingrained in your community and getting to know it. But, you know, obviously we don't want to take away from the other important work that police does, but it is something that my constituents miss, and I miss too. Although deeply appreciate the officers that do it. I don't want to say they're not doing a great job. They are. I wanted to ask about dispatch. One time you came in to us and talked about how dispatch was down 50%. Where are we with that? Are we recruiting more people? Are we retaining more people? I'm just curious if you can update that.
Yeah, so we were down, I think the last time I was here, we were down 18 dispatchers. We're now down 9. We have 2 more coming on board November 10th. We just promoted somebody to senior dispatcher, something we haven't done in a while. So we are in line to get back to where we need to be. So we are down to single digits. That's something that we have not been in a while. I'm confident that first quarter next year, we will be back full staffed.
That is excellent to hear. That is obviously can create a lot of issues if you are on the phone with a dispatcher and they need to leave while there's someone in your house to answer a 911 call. So just a question about, you were talking about not sharing data with ICE, which I very much appreciate. I do get a lot of questions from my constituents and from community members about ICE activity and what is there. You see things on social media all the time. Some of it is not real, some of it is real. I'm curious if you can share any information about what you're experiencing on the APD side. Obviously, you work with all federal partners and always have, but this is a completely different situation that I know that you are not working with because they are not communicating, but can you share any information about what you're aware of that's happening? Are there places that you know of that citizens can go to with accurate information that is put out? Because a lot of the social media things kind of turn into a frenzy that isn't necessarily helpful either, if it's not accurate.
So they do not contact us. So I have no doubt that there's operations in the city. I mean, there's clearly been people that have been taken into custody by ICE and taken away out of this community. But they are not communicating with us when it comes to that. You're right, we work with federal partners every single day. And on criminal investigations, we have open communications with a number of federal partners. When it comes to ICE and HSI, when it comes to immigration, they are not contacting us, and we are not having communication. And we often get some of the same notifications that you're speaking about, and people will inquire with us, and we're like, we don't know anything about that. So I wish I had a better answer to say, like, yeah, this is the right place to go so you could get information, but we don't have that answer.
I didn't believe that you necessarily would, but I was hoping that there was something out there that I didn't know about, because you would probably know about it before I did. Because it is a major concern for a lot of people in the city for many different reasons, whether it's for themselves or for their neighbors and loved ones, their kids' parents. That there are a lot of concerns with that. And then for CART, so, and this is full disclosure, and I apologize bringing up my own personal experience, but this is something that I think is relevant in our current situation of the mental health crisis that we're dealing with and the addiction crisis. So I had a home invasion at my house, and somebody broke into my house after midnight. He was only wearing a t-shirt and socks and menaced me around my house until APD came like about 10-15 minutes later. And I will say, after the fact, amazing, like I had a detective that continued on the case for months, and there's other things. So there's amazing things that happen with APD. I do not want, as I'm asking these questions, anybody that's listening for one moment to think that APD didn't respond. The 911 call, I think that the length of time, 15 minutes, was a decent length of time. I don't want to say that there was anything that APD did that was a terrible, terrible thing in it. But one of the things that I am concerned about is that will there be training when it comes to CART? So CART's going to be on eventually until midnight. Like what happened to me was after midnight, and this person was either had a mental health or addiction. I don't know the details of it. I just know that they were not okay. Will they be doing trainings? Because the issue that I experienced was this was somebody that I did not know at the time was on probation that did the same thing. That was why they were on probation. And the officers that came to my house said that they were doing mental health arrest. It was midnight. I was really scared. And I thought that he was being arrested and I would be able to get an order of protection. I was not able to do that because a mental health arrest is just bringing the person to a mental health institution. He was immediately released the next day and he came back to my house. So it's something, and likely came back again after that. So my concern and my story with this and sharing this is that those officers could have arrested him that night. They could have made that choice to arrest him. And they should have. He was on probation for doing the exact same thing. And instead, they said they brought him to a place that immediately released him to return to my house. And will there be training for that? Because there is a difference, and I understand why officers would be like hands off when it comes to somebody who is in a mental health crisis or an addiction crisis. There is a difference between public safety and mental health supports, but when somebody's breaking into your house and threatening someone, that is a public safety issue. And my concern is that right now, this crisis that we're in and why people don't feel safe is that our officers are stepping back from using the tools that they have because they're concerned about overstepping in one way or another. And that's like, I mean, that's unacceptable. So this person, they couldn't arrest him for months, they couldn't find him. I don't feel the same. Like, I am not the same person that I was. And I don't know that I ever will be. And part of that is because they didn't arrest him that night, and that was their choice. So I'm curious, what will be happening? Will the CART people be working with officers so that kind of thing doesn't happen again? Compassion's important, so is actually enforcing the law.
So CART officers respond in one of two ways. They either respond in alternative response on their own, or they respond with officers. When it comes to a crime has occurred, then officers will respond either with them, or officers would respond solo. So yes, officers would respond in that case. I want to make something clear, and we can always improve, and this might be one of those cases we can always improve. When it comes to when a crime has been committed and there's a choice whether or not to divert somebody, whether it's in a mental health crisis and we divert them with a mental health arrest, or we divert somebody to Lake Lead, the victim in that case is always in control. So I realize you don't feel like you were in control that night, and like I said, I think we can always learn. But at the end of the day, the person who's been victimized always has the choice. I think we can always do better to educate everyone, including ourselves. But at the end of the day, the person who has been victimized has the choice. We have a system, we have a number of systems that tend to fail people. I don't want to be part of a system that fails people, so I want to make sure we improve our systems. At the end of the day, sometimes the choice of making an arrest for a penal law charge may actually result in the person getting out faster than a mental health call. However, based on a report I just ran, we have to have a significant discussion with our hospital system, because I just had a report run where I see our hospital system is releasing people just as fast as our criminal justice system is. So whether we arrest somebody and charge them with a penal law charge and they have a mental health need, that system needs to respond. Or if we bring somebody to the hospital and they have a mental health need, that system needs to respond. But what's not acceptable is when an action's taken, somebody needs to take the next step and actually follow through. And that clearly didn't happen. But yes, to answer your question, yes, CART has received a lot of training around mental health response. And in a case like yours, a dispatcher would have either sent both police and CART or just sent the police. They would have made that decision.
But my case happened after midnight, so that would not.
But even if CART was available, like, because there may be times CART works after midnight, the goal is to have them, there would have either been a co-response or just police.
And I guess my interest was that just because you're not always going to get CART on every call, if there is a possibility as you're doing trainings, like you're doing the academy, that can be part of it. I also would recommend not calling a mental health arrest, because I thought that he was getting arrested because that, so there's just different things that.
I think that's part of education, but the person is in our custody. It is an arrest, and I think that's what, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that's part of overall education. It is a mental health arrest. That person has no choice. They are under our care, our custody. They are in we can put handcuffs on them, we can force them to the hospital. What we can't do, just like when we arrest somebody and bring them before a judge, we have no say. Once they get to the hospital makes a decision. Once we bring them before a judge, in a criminal case, we have no say.
Right.
So it is an arrest. It is a section of the mental hygiene law. It is just not the penal law.
That makes sense. I guess the thing that maybe there is more conversation to understand that for the victim that you would not be able to get, there are things that without a penal arrest that you would not be able to do,
Yes.
such as an order of protection.
Yes.
And then to follow that up, one of the things that I've been dealing with a great deal is and I think most of us have, is how in our current climate with mental health and addiction especially, it's amazing to see the different statistics going down because we all want guns off the street. I mean, I'm so thrilled to see the lower numbers, and that is important to talk about, and it is important that APD gets props for that, because that's a lot of hard work on your end with a tiny police force. However, people, like, I feel less safe now than I ever have in my entire life. To say that there's an increase in public safety when people are dealing with issues like mine, people breaking into their house because they have mental health issues, when people, my coworker was just beaten on the bus for literally no reason. Off the top of my head, I have friends that live off of Lark Street that there literally are people shooting up and ODing outside their home every single day. And every week they have to deal with people defecating on their step. None of those statistics are in the statistics that are used to calculate public safety. But when people feel less safe and you have the police force saying there's an increase in public safety, it makes you trust the police less. And that is not okay. I mean, that's not on you guys. You guys are doing an incredible job. You are doing great things. But when you actually feel less safe because you have people accosting you constantly, it's just something you should still tout those numbers, but I would be careful with the language that you use because it actually makes people not trust the police as much because they're not feeling as safe.
And I completely appreciate that, and I will obviously take that into account and try to figure that out. But I recommend then that folks have a conversation with the mental health community. People have a conversation with the substance use community. People have a conversation with the hospital community, because a lot of the things you just mentioned they're my responsibility. I'm not gonna sidestep responsibility, but the accountability falls on the mental health community, the substance use community, and the hospital community.
I completely agree, and that's a lot of the conversations that I have, because it's not the police's fault that our mental health system is failing. You know, that when you have, as you said, hospitals just churning people out because we don't have good solutions in mental health for people in mental health crisis, that our addiction services are not properly funded to deal with the issues that we're dealing with. I completely agree, and I think it's important to talk about that, but it's still something that unfortunately it's spilling out, and it is on the police's plate a lot of the time. You know, somebody shooting up on your front steps, like that does fall into a public safety issue. Somebody breaking into your house half naked and chasing you around your house, that falls into public safety. Like those are things that fall into public safety, and those are things that it is a big deal. I think we need to continue to talk about it and push accountability where it is. I completely agree with that, but it also doesn't change the fact that we feel less safe because of it. And part of it is things that, unfortunately, I wish it didn't fall on your plate because it's not fair, I agree, but it does. So in any case, I do deeply appreciate you. And again, if for anybody that's listening, I want to tell them how much officers did to finally find this person. I now have an order of protection, and I am incredibly grateful because it was people that went above and beyond in their job and cared. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Farrell. A few questions. First one is a quick one. Just in relation to the GIVE grant, in the presentation we had 1 million, and you mentioned that it might be a 1.3. In the budget book, I'm seeing on page 52, 1,013,000. I just want to clarify, is that the correct number?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay, so the increase was
It's
13,000.
1.014.
Okay,
And the grant period for the GIVE project runs from July 1 through June 30th. They're in a fiscal year.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then going back to the conversation on vehicles, this is for Budget Director. So just to clarify, particularly for those that might be listening in, what you had mentioned to council members Farrell questions is that we have authorized in past years, like last year, for example, we have authorized bonding for vehicles, but just to clarify, instead we used cash from the general fund and did not exercise the bonds?
No, so we utilized cash to capital funding in the capital budget the last 2 or 3 years. As Councilmember Farrell mentioned, the city has utilized debt to fund police vehicle purchases in the past, prior to that.
Okay, so then I'm getting a little lost in that clarification. So what was the differential between cash versus in prior years versus this year?
So last year, I believe our budget was about $1.2 million for vehicle purchases that was funded entirely by cash.
Okay. And this year, is it, the reason for the full bonding is due to the other increases that we've had across the budget that doesn't allow for the cash?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So it's safe to say like other office increases or agency increases has led to the need for additional bonding?
Yes.
In relation to the Axon technology contract, the implementation of the new technology that you mentioned, a couple questions in relation to that, Chief. You had mentioned something about the fire department previously being intertwined in that prior system. I think it was called Pulsium, and now they're looking to separately contract out. So just to clarify, they are doing their own RFP process for a separate system?
So they are still intertwined, and that RFP is still one. So the CAD system, the computer-aided dispatch system, that is still one. So the communications division dispatches calls for police, fire, and EMS, and utilizes the CAD system for everybody. The records system has always been separated.
Okay.
We all use Pulsium right now. We are all getting away from the Pulsium side for the record system. So while police is going to use the Axon system, the Axon system does not provide for a fire system, so they are in the process of choosing a separate system for the fire.
For records, okay. That's helpful, thank you. And then you had mentioned that, a couple times that in future years, we're going to look to increase the Axon contract. Do you have any predictions on how much more of an increase you're looking for?
I do, just give me 1 second. So this goes from, in 2027, this becomes just about 3.4 million. And again, keep in mind, this goes beyond RMS. This includes taser, body-worn cameras, in-car camera systems, the drone program, our interview rooms, the support for all of our street-level camera systems. This also enables us, as the body-worn cameras will upgrade to the next level body-worn camera. So right now, we have a big issue with translation. So the next upgrade to the body-worn camera allows for translation, I want to say in like 150 different languages. So if somebody speaks, I'll just use Spanish. If somebody speaks Spanish to an officer and they don't speak Spanish, they can hit the button. It will tell the officer what the person said. When the officer speaks back, it will speak in Spanish to the officer, to the individual, but it speaks a number of different languages. And then every year after that, it stays 3.4 million until 2031, and it goes to 3.5 for 2 years, and then it comes back down to 3.4 until 2035. The totality of this contract is $32 million.
So that's a multi-year contract already executed, not like optional renewal years?
We have not fully executed this contract. We plan on executing this contract.
Okay.
We have a current contract with them. This will ultimately increase the number of years and increase our technology utilization with them.
Okay. So then am I interpreting right that the debt authorization of 1.9 million is for the Axon contract this year, and then we're looking to increase for 2027 an additional 1.5 to get to 3.4?
Correct.
Okay.
And we'll also be, so we don't have it all on debt, we'll also be looking at our grant funding to offset that in future years. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because we are, I mean, we have expressed, and this is obviously to more budget director here, concerns about our debt service. And this is just another, potential 1.5 we're talking about for the next year. Okay. All right. And then in relation to the civil service, I just want to clarify this as well. Obviously, you're going to come to the council next year to look for some additional legislation to help bring that test in-house. And I think you said that you put in roughly 40,000 into contracted services to account for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's already funding for that for you to do in the next fiscal year.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. With that, do we have any additional questions from council members? Councilmember Hoey and Chair of Public Safety.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief, and your staff. I'm going to keep it short because it's been a long night. With the dispatchers, we passed legislation, and I think it's only temporary, and we might need to extend it to allow dispatchers to live outside the city. Do you think that helped us?
Absolutely. There's no doubt. After that legislation was passed, we increased our recruiting efforts. We put a bunch of messages out there. We increased the messaging about not having to reside in the city, and the number of applications increased probably fivefold.
Now, does that also apply to the police officers?
Our police officers already did not have to reside in the city, so we did not have that barrier for our police officers.
Okay, great. And then, real fast, I'm glad to hear the question on the traffic division. That was one of my concerns. If we see an area in our wards that really needs somebody, maybe even just to give out warning tickets, is that something that we could request?
Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is either reach out. I would say you all do have a beat officer. If you know your beat officer, reach out to your beat officer. You all can always feel free to email me. If you know your station commander, Commander Gibson or Commander Raviola, shoot them an email, and we'll make sure we get that taken care of.
Okay, and then the final thing, and this is a real sore point for me and most of the council, we have a situation I alerted you to with the CPRB. No matter what happens, we are going to have to train a bunch of people, and I know you mentioned I had reached out to you about increasing the civilian police academy, but I'm wondering, in the case of the CPRB, if we do bring on, we're down 6 members. If we were to bring, would there be any way we could get specialized, maybe Zoom training for them to start, at least to get them rolling? And I got to put compliments out for Commander Maury. Unbelievable work that she has done with working with the CPRB, but I'm just wondering, is that something you could consider? I don't want to twist your arm, but it would help us out a lot.
We'll work with you to figure it out. And just, listen, we believe in civilian oversight. We want to make sure it gets taken care of right. I want to assure everybody, even during this downtime, our Office of Professional Standards is continuing to investigate any complaint that comes in, and I'm proud to announce Commander Maury will be Deputy Chief Maury come November 7th.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Councilmember Anani?
Yeah, first of all, just thank you, Chief, for your passion and trying to get more police officers on the force. I remember when I joined the council, I always thought that, we could increase the age or, give higher pay or anything like that. So crazy. We never thought about like the civil service exam or civil service being in one of the barriers. So it's great that you're thinking out the box. And again, like my colleagues mentioned, any way that we could be of help legislatively. And I know you're thinking about next year, but even next week, please let us know so we can start the process. My question more so is regarding this budget, and we've seen an uptick particularly with like youth violence and youth activities. Is there specifically anything that is not in this budget that you want to ask for?
So, we've been working with the mayor's office and the Ms. Pliers on the youth hubs. I know the $500,000 is in there. We completely support that initiative. We've also been working with some national consultants on the Act Now initiative to bring some funding here for consulting work to help on that initiative. So that's going to be philanthropic funding. That's not reflected in the budget based on the fact that it's philanthropic funding, and we do not know how much it's going to be, but we expect that to be some good funding that will help support that and help support that youth initiative. So I think that will help address some of those needs. And when we get our recruiting video, you can play it at the Madison.
All right, sounds good. Just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do for the city.
Additional questions, comments before we go into ordinances? Councilmember Conti.
Yeah, just a quick question. I don't know if I noticed this before. It's been asked on the red light camera revenues or fine revenue, which was $50,000 in '24 actuals, and then 2025 budget was $400. I don't know if that was collected, but $400 again in '26. Why the big jump? When I recall, this was a problem in terms of overstated revenue projections when we first implemented the program.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 2024, I think there's just a timing difference of when the revenue got booked. 25, we've collected, I believe it was about $250,000 through 9/30. So I think 400's a reasonable estimate for the full year.
So 250 so far, and that would be an additional 150 my math is right. I've never been good at math, for the last quarter, correct? Okay. And Chief, just to clarify, parking authority is not your jurisdiction, that's someone else, because that's where I have problems.
Correct. Parking authority was mine the last time I was here, but they are not mine now.
Okay. Now we will go into our ordinances for this evening. So first, we will start with ordinance 28-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,913,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $1,913,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, police, public safety IT systems. During our discussion, we had discussed that this is the transition to the Axon technologies that will bring a lot of benefit to the old antiquated system that you previously had. Any additional useful life, approximately 10 years. Any additional comments on this ordinance from you all? I'll throw another question out there. Understanding that the old platform was antiquated and you needed to transition, how significant of a cost differential is this compared to the prior contract?
So the CAD side will ultimately not cost a lot. The records management side, because of how antiquated it was, at the end of the day, this will be a significant savings, in my opinion, for the records management side. For us to go to another platform, because we already have an existing contract and because we're already working with Axon, it's actually a pretty significant savings to go to them. If we were to go to a completely different vendor, to one of the other vendors that had come in, it would be more expensive.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions from council committee members? Okay. If no additional questions, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I would like to make a motion to move ordinance 28-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Is there a second? Okay, we had a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We had a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Okay. Ordinance 28-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. We'll move forward to ordinance 29-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $400,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $400,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. Police station infrastructure improvements. You had mentioned during your presentation that this would be South Station as well as West.
So the South Station on the second floor where the detective office is, it would be a number of bathroom improvements there, and also our West Station improvements on our gym and our training center, and then we also have improvements on the farm.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on this ordinance? Okay, if not, is there a motion? Councilmember Farrell?
I move that we move ordinance 29-101-25 out of the committee with positive recommendation.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell for ordinance 29-101-25, a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays, any abstentions? Okay. With that ordinance, did I hear 3 people? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If we can just say aye, that'd be great. With that, ordinance 29-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Okay, our last ordinance for this evening is ordinance 30-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $2 million, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of 2 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, police vehicles, and equipment replacement. Comments, questions on this ordinance? Councilmember Farrell.
I was wondering if we could perhaps wait to move this until after we've kind of dealt with a further budget. I don't think we'll have any further questions for you, Chief, on it. We understand the whole concept of the police cars. We want you to have them. We want them to be all outfitted. But I just think the shift might be good to kind of look at more in context of the budget after we have other presentations.
Yep. Interested table and look more holistically at this ordinance in addition to others. Anyone interested in that? We have 2. I'll throw my hand out there. Okay, so it looks like we will table this. Before we do, Councilmember Keegan, do you have a question?
It's not really a question, just more of a comment. I do think, I mean, I don't know how we'd go in and build this back into the budget, but I do think that this needs to be an issue that is addressed in our budget resolution, with the expectation that if we were to move on this year, it has to be built back into the budget in years going forward.
Yep, we'll include a section on this. Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you, Chair. I echo those sentiments. It's actually a little painful to see us going back to this, because I remember 7 years ago, us having a conversation about how difficult it was to lean off of borrowing, because you had to not just pay cash, but then still pay for those other 2 years that you were borrowed from. So that's why it was so difficult to lean off. So now that we've leaned off for 3 years and have basically paid off all that we were behind on, or all that we had borrowed on vehicles, to go back to borrowing is a bit painful to look at. So I appreciate having a little more time to look at this and a little more time to discuss this with Gideon and see what we can, if there's anything we can get creative in, because, yeah, we made some progress on getting this off of the debt roll, and just go back on it without a little deeper conversation is hard for me today. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to
I'm
hold.
sorry. Can I speak to the vehicles just so that we have
Absolutely.
more of an overview? So in the past year, we have actually lost greater than 15 vehicles within the fleet. 6 of them were totaled, which the Sedgwick funds go back to the city as revenue. So we don't get to reutilize those funds in any capacity. So our request was to have 20 vehicles, which would be an adequate number. So the 16 that are currently out of service, of those 16, 4 have been repaired, and the remaining 12 were still on the fence with regards to how we're going to care for those vehicles, because the service and maintenance fees are so extremely high with regards to the repairs. We're having to make tough decisions as to what is best to do with our fleet matrix. So part of our challenge is what we're going to put back into service. As the chief spoke earlier, he indicated that the vehicle, not like your vehicle or my vehicle, they turn off, they rest. These vehicles in the fleet run 24/7. So 4 of the vehicles that we've had to repair engines on were just outside of their 3-year warranty. Those engine replacements are $15,000 each for labors and parts and repair costs. So that's what we're facing. Inflated maintenance and service fees. So for the month of September, it was unprecedented. We paid over $75,000 just in vehicle repair maintenance costs. So that's what we're facing, and I just wanted to give you more insight and a little bit of background. So we're not looking to gain a surplus, but just to sustain where we are.
Absolutely. Thank you for that context. And just to be super clear, we want to make sure you have the right amount of vehicles that your department needs. It's more so the mechanism for how we're funding those vehicles that
Yes.
expresses some concern overall for the city's debt service. So absolutely understand that. You did say something in there at the beginning that I would like a little bit more information on. So you said, I thought I heard SecTrek, but I'm not sure, but the funding goes back to the revenue for the city. And
It does.
Can you explain that a little bit more? So you get funding.
So we had 6 vehicles that were totaled.
Okay.
So Sedgwick is who we ride on, our insurance carrier.
Got it.
So that revenue for every total vehicle, whether we get 30 or 40K, depending on where they are in their residual life, that revenue goes back to the city.
And Gideon, is that required to go back to the city's fund balance, or is that something that we can distribute the funds to the police department?
Well, I mean, it's revenue, it's insurance recovery revenue, so it gets booked to that line in the general fund, and then would have to be appropriated in some manner to be expended.
Right. It seems like it should obviously supplement, because if they're totaling vehicles, that money should go back towards vehicles, cash for you then to replace vehicles. So, Councilmember Keegan.
Yeah, I'm not quite clear, like, why wouldn't we be able to E&A those funds back over to the department to replace the vehicle, or put a mid-year order in to replace something that was obviously totaled out of the fleet that year?
Yeah, I mean, we can accommodate that.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will do that. Okay. Okay. Anything else? So again, just we're holding on ordinance 30-101-25 for now, and we'll discuss in a more holistic conversation on the budget when we get past departmental presentations. Any additional items for the police department this evening? Okay. All right, thank you for staying with us. I know this was a long evening and you were a second presentation, so appreciate all the detail you provided. It was extremely detail-oriented presentation and very helpful for us to learn, so, and for the public to hear. So thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. And with that, we hope you have a good evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Adams, second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone.